Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio Live, everybody. I hope you're all doing well out there. Obviously, it is Thursday, and you know what that means. Right, Brandon?
Yep, and as you can tell, I got a new camera.
And Brandon got a new camera for you guys because it kept glitching out. I am Ron. That is Brandon. And tonight, we have a very special guest. We have with us coming from some top secret base in the middle of who knows where, somewhere in the forest, I think. I'm not sure. I won't reveal his location, but Ron Murphy will be joining us, and we will be talking about, of all things, ghost lights, fairies, orbs, spook lights, Bigfoot, maybe aliens. I don't know. We're going to be talking about a whole lot of things. I know it sounds like a lot of the stuff we talk about, and that's why I wanted him on. Because honestly, I could not think of too many more people who I would rather have on this show to talk about some of this stuff with. So before we get into that, let's get everybody in the room. Let's give them out their little shout outs. And by the way, folks, this is our first show that is part of the our YouTube partnership. So we managed to do that. I don't know if you guys know or not. We were kind of keeping it secret there, but we did it. We managed to actually hit our 4,000 hour mark. So now, supposedly, you guys can I don't know, somehow send us money if you want to, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how any of that works. But either way, it was really awesome. And it was all thanks to you guys. In all sincerity, absolute sincerity. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It won't change much for us other than the fact that now we don't have to buy, broken cameras for Brandon anymore. That makes a big difference. So, that being said, let us start welcoming some people in. We've got James Boggs with us. We've got the Dewster. Dewey's over there. And we've got, who else we got, bud? I'm trying to keep up. We got Eyes in the Woods. They're over there. We've got Teresa. Teresa's back. Welcome, Teresa. Adam Good, as always. Adam's in the house. And I see some Facebook users. Hi, Facebook users. Hey, Fish Belly. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest in, and we're going to get this thing started because we have a lot to talk about. As always, you have questions, post them over there, and we will see them, and we'll pop them up here, and we'll get to them as fast as we possibly can. So,
What?
yes, absolutely, right?
Oh, do you see that?
What do we see? What am I seeing? I don't see
See what
nothing.
Spooky just did?
Spooky Appalachia just became our first donor at. Oh my God. Thank you, my friend, so much. I know that means nothing to hardly anyone, but that means so much to us. Please go out and support Spooky, by the way. They are on their own quest for the magical number now, and they're going to do it because we're going to push them over the top if we have to. Everybody, make sure you're over there and following Spooky Appalachia. That being said, everyone, Ron Murphy.
Hello. It's good being here, guys. I'm actually flattered you have me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, it's going to be fun, Ron. And like I said, for all sincerity, I'm serious about this. I can't think of anyone else who I would rather have on the show to discuss this because you've seen them.
I have. And I think as we go along on the show a little bit deeper, I think that we'll find out that a lot of investigators have
Yeah.
seen these things. They just don't like to talk about them.
What you said. We've said that. And, I think we've seen the tide starting to turn on that too. We've even noticed this, like more and more people are starting to talk about these orbs and these strange lights. I mean, for whatever reason, I think a lot of it has to honestly do with media. I know Skinwalker Ranch made a huge dent with that
Oh, yeah.
and got people to actually start talking about these kind of things. And then everybody else is jumping on board at this point, but they're not doing anything that we didn't already know. We know those things are out there, right?
That's right. Yeah, we know that these things are out here, but a lot of people, especially if they consider themselves a Bigfoot investigator, thinks that the red herring is kind of the earth lights, the spook lights, so they throw it out or they don't report it because people will think that they're nuts. Do you see what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah.
even people that are investigating the strange and unusual still feels a sense of insecurities whenever they discuss other paranormal phenomenon. So I think that what we need to do as investigators, whether you're a cryptid investigator, a UFO investigator, or a ghost hunter, or whatever you are, you have to keep an open mind. And I think that the more and more you talk to these investigators, the more you're finding similarities in these different types of supernatural phenomenon than differences in it.
Right? It's absolutely. And look here. Here's a case in point right here, Ron. I was in the woods. Hello, I'm new, but have been filming some strange, fast-moving objects for about 8 months. They fly low to the ground and leave a tail, but very fast. I can't wait to see if you have seen this. I'll answer first. Yes. How about you, Ron?
Absolutely. So whatever it says about there's a tail there, it's showing that the way that the lighting is, right? It's a very, very pronounced lighting. And I will tell you, the first time I saw these things, I really had no idea what I was dealing with. It looked like, to me, the first time I saw something definitively, it looked almost like an LED light in the woods, right? So your mind starts thinking, could this be a firefly? Or is this some sort of insect causing this, right? And then whenever you rule that kind of stuff out, then you are opened up to a whole bunch of conjecture about what might be going on. Now, the farther we get down this rabbit hole, the more I think people will discover that we're dealing with something that has some sort of innate intelligence. And at that point, this becomes a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. I think that's where you get at. Go ahead, Brandon.
I was just agreeing with him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of where you get with this, because you're seeing these things moving and they're reacting to us, right? I mean, that's it. So, and I've said this multiple times, I think we're dealing with some kind of intelligence. I don't know what it is. You know,
Absolutely.
they want me to say, Ron, they wanted me to say for years, you know, it's this or it's that. I won't do that because I don't have the data that tells me what this is.
Sure, absolutely. So as a historian, you know, that's what I went to school for. I start because if this stuff is happening, it can't exist in a vacuum. There has to be a precedent for it. So I start accumulating things almost like an archaeologist. So what I do as a writer, it's actually quite rewarding because I try to go as far back as I can in the historical record. And if that doesn't match up, you keep on going back, like peeling off layers of the onion. And sometimes we can see things in cave art or some representation in burial goods and such. But if we go very, very far back, almost to the very beginning, into the idea of the shaman, whenever this world was alive, there was animism out there, that the belief was that everything was imbued with that light, that fire of divinity, or whatever you might want to call it. The idea of this light was central to these belief systems, right? And we see this, we know that it was central because we can see it in the way different cultures from around the world interpret it. Yeah. So whenever we look at the Australian culture, the Aboriginal culture, even though they are different peoples over there, and it's just not one unified culture, they still have this idea that there is a binding fire that binds them and the universe together as if it's shared element. So in their dream time, this other world from whence they come, this fire also comes from. And it's also very interesting to see that over there they have something, there's a natural phenomenon over there called the Min lights. So whenever you have things like the Marfa lights in Texas, right, or the Brown Mountain lights, they too have this tradition of these lights that are active within the environment. And I think when we start looking around the world, all cultures have a tradition of lights. As I was doing my book, I found out that Thailand had this great tradition of these lights appearing in swamps, and they call them, the fire of dragons. And if you look into the Middle Ages in England, they would be called will o' the wisps. Yep. And if you were a sailor, it would be Saint Elmo's fire. All these different types of things. But if you start connecting the dots, it seems that we're talking about the same thing. And if we are talking about the same thing, then, my friends, as investigators, we have to figure out what that thing is.
I couldn't have said any of that any better, my friend. You're absolutely right. There is this trail of names. I always say it's just labels. I swear to God, that's going to be the name of my book one day. It's just labels. But it's labels, right, Ron? I mean, we're talking about kind of the same stuff here.
It is. Yep.
I mean, it seems to be.
Great point.
Yeah, it seems to be.
we as human beings like to label things. So we talk about cryptids. The reason why they're cryptids is because science hasn't categorized them, right? And they haven't put them down and put a label on them. So we are dealing with something that's ambiguous. So whenever we start putting labels on things, that's how we start perceiving them to be. So a lot of people, whenever they witness these lights, as I see Shade Viking here said about swamp gas, weather
Yeah.
balloons,
Yeah.
Chinese lanterns, all this kind of stuff, you try to reason it away because it doesn't make sense if we're dealing with something that's part of the physical environment.
And we have to remember, it was J. Allen Hynek who gave us that swamp gas
Absolutely.
stereotype.
That's right. Yes, yes, yes. And of course, that some of that stuff can happen, guys.
Yeah, it sure
Some
can.
of the stuff could be that. But whenever we're out in the woods and things approach you, or they trail you, or they seem to want to interact with you. I've heard reports. This didn't happen to me personally, but I've heard reports that they would actually mimic the flashlights, that
Yeah.
you would turn them off and on. They would mimic how many times you turn them off and on. So I know a lot of Bigfoot investigators go out there and they start hitting on trees, hoping that if you hit a tree 3 times, something out there would answer 3 times, some sort of pattern, so that it's not something naturally occurring like a squirrel or something along those lines. Because nature kind of doesn't like patterns like that. But I've heard a lot of people take a flashlight and flash it off 2 or 3 times, and these lights mimic that, which means that they're not only seeing what you're doing, they're understanding what you're doing.
Yeah. And we've heard this with UFO researchers for years, using lights as a communication and so forth. I think James just said it perfectly. This is what they are referred to in some documentation, sentient cognitive non-human intelligence.
Mm.
And that's kind of what these things seem to be. They're anomalous in nature,
That's
but
right.
they're self-illuminated.
Exactly. And the idea, so I started to really research this idea of a fire. Okay, the idea of,
Hmm.
and look, I'm a practicing Catholic, so I don't mean any ill respect to any kind of religions, but in our faith, in my faith, we have the idea of the Holy Spirit, which is represented as tongues of flame, and the descent of the Holy Spirit came through wind and descended as flame. So we have this even in the Roman Catholic tradition. But if we go back to Hindu traditions, we see something called the prana, which is this all-encompassing,
That's right.
illuminating fire. And even the yoga tradition, you have this idea of the fire that's the almost like the force, if you will, with Star Wars. And of course, George Lucas is a very intelligent man, so he drew off of all these kind of ideas as well. So the idea that there's something out there that's all connecting, that connects us all, and not only connects us as humanity, but it connects us to the universe as well, right? That's really the main cog in this wheel. That what we're dealing with is something that it can be extremely emotionally intimate for one person, but it's not just happening to one person, it's happening to a great deal of people. And not only is it happening to a great deal of people, the reason why it's happening, in my opinion, has something to do with the greater being of everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, this is literally the cornerstone of. We had talked about this before with making contact and a few other things that we did. Something wants the people not just to wake up, but to realize, hey, you're part of this.
Mhm.
You're part of this.
Yep,
And we're not going to talk to everybody, but we're going to talk to the people who want to be talked to.
Uh, you well, so I saw our friend Eric Altman just came on, and whenever I was
Oh,
down
there's
in,
Eric.
yep, whenever I was down in Richwood, I
But
kind of talked about this, not so much at the lecture that I gave. I talked about this during the gathering on Friday. As much as I've been doing this, I've been doing this for a while and talking to people, and I do firmly believe that whenever someone has a sighting or an experience, it is almost an unspoken agreement between the person experiencing it and the object, right? The manifested object.
mhm.
I think that we are part of that catalyst, which brings about the experience.
Yeah, and validation.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So whenever I had the experience with the Earth lights, and
Mhm.
Eric Altman is here as well too. so I could kind of discuss this now. It was of such a degree that if we were not in the woods of Western Pennsylvania looking for Bigfoot, and we were around instead of some holy site from around the world, it could have been put down as a religious experience
Yeah.
because it means something different to different people. So we were filming. This is one of those rare things where people can actually go and look for themselves and corroborate what had happened because we were filming for Small Town Monsters, right?
Hmm.
There was a show called or Sasquatch Uncovered the Ridge, and it was during the filming of the very first night that we went out. So there's this would have actually be episode 2 of the series, but it happened during the filming of episode 1. If that makes sense, but that's how these people do it. So what we were looking at is we were, hearing some strange things, possibly a wood knock, possibly a vocalization of something unknown, but something strange was going on. Let's put it that way. And so with the kind of activity that was going on, we decided to break up. So Eric went one way, and I stayed back with his son. And before long, Josh and I start seeing these lights moving through the trees. We assumed that they almost looked like cell phones. They were very brilliant looking, and they had a cadence to them as if somebody was walking. So with seeing that, you just kind of assume that it's somebody else out there in the woods until these 3 lights go from about 3 or 4 feet off the ground and start climbing very, very slowly into the treetops. So something now is walking, 20 feet into the air. So we knew that something was happening. So we called down there, and we find out that not only are we experiencing these lights, but the other teams are as well. So they were caught on camera. Now I will tell you this: I was extremely flattered and honored to be part of the Small Town Monster production. But at that moment, from an artistic point of view, I think that the director should have stuck with the Earth lights over the search for Bigfoot, because what was going on there at that particular time was so eventful and I believe so important that it overrode the reason for the documentary in the first place. Well, whatever was going on, we were getting interaction with what appeared to be sentient lights of unexplained origins. It was to the point where the one cameraman had no idea what was going on. A seasoned veteran of the field, Eric Altman, also witnessed these things. So it wasn't like a lot of greenhorns out there. There was something going on. And one of our friends, Tom Mihawk, who's also a very good investigator,
Hmm.
he probably had the most intimate of the encounters because something approached him that was an orange-colored orb about the size of a basketball. And it approached him to the point wherever he said he could reach out and touch it. And I asked him, I said, what would happen if you reached out and touched it? And his face kind of went white because what does happen, right? We don't know what happens. But it got so close to him that he hollered out to it, thinking that it was another person, and the thing just vanished like that. And this went on probably for, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. So this was a long, drawn-out process. And it definitely deserved more than 30 minutes of a YouTube documentary. This is something I think that it was really the greatest experience I ever had as a researcher in collecting data that I had ever been witnessed, and not just me independently, but a lot of different people were getting this data as well too. But it seemed as if these lights meant something to each person individually. To me and Josh that we were looking at, they just seemed as some sort of anomalous, just something strange in the environment. But these other folks out there were getting connections with them. They were having an interaction with them, almost as if these things were playing with them, some sort of hide and seek or something. So that is really my thrust into the world now of what these things could be, because I witnessed them before in the past, but never to this degree.
Right. I mean, Tom's encounter was nuts.
It was.
I talked to him at Kecksburg last year and pretty much just kind of interviewed him there about this whole thing. And it affected him, Ron. Like he had, I wouldn't say it was like PTSD, but he definitely had some kind of an experience. And I looked at it more as this guy just had a contact experience.
Right.
That's what it felt like to me, the way that he was talking. And he really did. he wanted to touch that thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I mean, it was almost like it wanted. I don't know. I don't know how to even explain that because I'm not gonna put words in the man's mouth because he's not
Right.
here. But honestly, it almost seemed like it wanted him to do just that.
Yep.
And he was kind of second guess. Well, why didn't I? And he never thought about what you said. Well, what if you did?
Right. Right. So whenever you were saying that, I kind of got the icy chills down the spine because it seemingly did want to have physical
Interaction.
contact with this gentleman.
Hmm.
Right. 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 But we don't know what that kind of union might bring about. Right.
Oh yeah.
And we talk about things. I mean, Paulides writes about this kind of stuff all the time. People go missing all the time. And is it possible that this is one of the reasons why people go missing? Um, so whenever you look at lights in the woods, and I've always been very interested in fairies, so I immediately start looking at some sort of antecedent in the fairy realm, and we do have these things here, right? The idea of the will o' the wisp, these lights that would lead people off the trail into their demise in swamps and the woods
Yeah.
and everything like that. There seems to be a very um, ambivalent nature to these things. I mean, sometimes they can be downright sinister, but sometimes they can be just, cranky little individuals. Like I keep on telling people, probably the best rule of thumb is just simply don't piss the fairies off. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But another strange thing about this gentleman, this is where it comes even more strange. Okay, so not only are we seeing these earth lights, and we're hearing what sounds like Bigfoot vocalizations, and we're also hearing what sounds like wood dogs. All of this stuff is occurring, and the epicenter of it is a cemetery, is an abandoned old coal mining cemetery out in the middle of nowhere. This is just too much. So, say for instance, I was a Bigfoot investigator solely. What happened that night? I would be saying I was getting, responses from some sort of unknown bipedal hominid, right? That was what was going on. If I was a ghost hunter, I would say absolutely. We were getting all this kind of, stuff. So it means so many things to so many different people. And I'm starting to come to the conclusion is instead of fighting within this field, and instead of having pissing contests with other
That's
people, why don't we
all
just
they
come out?
do.
Yeah, we don't know what we're dealing with, but is it possible that all this stuff is tied together? And if it's all tied together, right, exactly. Let's kind of find out the unity of this thing rather than kind of, have all this kind of fighting that goes on.
Yep.
No, 100%. We talk about it all the time.
Yep.
That was one of the presentations we presented last year at with Bill was related phenomena. I learned, I should say. I came to the conclusion years and years and years ago that I think that there is a common thread to this stuff.
I do too. Yeah.
Brandon, what are you thinking, bud? I mean, I see your head. You're absorbing a lot of stuff over there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree with him. It's all connected somehow. We just haven't found that puzzle piece yet.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Now, there's another thing that I want to say too, because as I research these things, and I'm starting to think now, and this is probably going to be open to a lot of criticism, but that's why we're here as well too, because that's how
Throw
we
it on
work.
the table, man. That's what
Right.
we do here. Throw it on the
So-
table.
Instead of looking for things like dogman and apex predators like Bigfoot and all these kind of creatures sharing a very small, ecosystem where it doesn't really make much sense that you have these kind of creatures around, is it possible that these so-called earthlights are able to manifest within us what we want to see? So, in other words, they are the screen on which we project our images of what we want to see, or possibly what they want us to see as well too.
Okay,
So-
we'll interrupt you just for 1 second,
Sure,
and this
sure.
is for the people out there. He said it, not me this time. He's saying it. So you make sure you listen to over there this
Yes.
way. Yeah, listen to him because it's not me. Okay,
Right.
continue,
Well,
Ron. Continue.
well, the thing is, though, you and I have a similar ideas, right? We have
Yeah.
similar philosophies, right? And that's not saying that what you're doing as a researcher in any way is diminished, right? You're still doing research. But what I'm saying, to me, it makes more sense to me that the reason why we're not catching evidence of these creatures and not taking pictures of these things even though I firmly believe that people are seeing them, is because it's such a personal experience.
Mhm.
It is a connection between an intelligence within the environment and the very makeup of the other person. It's almost as if it is a chemical reaction or some sort of synapse firing in such a way. And Rene Descartes thought about this as well too. He had this idea of Cartesian theory that what we see can be impacted on our environment around us as well. So it is based upon some science. So this just isn't some sort of new age wacky woo stuff going on here.
Oh, yeah.
There is precedent for this, but in my opinion, I will tell you that I believe that what's going on there is that there is a sentient force within the environment, and it is able to project at us what we want, what they want us to see, or what we want to see, and that is really the cause of a lot of different types of supernatural phenomena.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely couldn't agree more. It's screen images. It's basically, showing that wherever this is has the ability, possibly has this ability to literally not so much rewrite the brain, but focus, the wavelengths to the point to where it can manipulate
Oh, absolutely.
what
So,
we see.
right. So, Ron, I'm glad we're going to go down another rabbit hole here as well, too.
That's what we're here for,
So,
man.
yep. So, vibrations and frequencies.
Yes.
A lot of people don't like to listen to this kind of stuff because it's
Oh,
so new agey.
it's too
Right.
new age, Ron.
Exactly. That's right. But
Jeez.
there was been studies done at Berkeley. So we're talking
Yeah.
about real research where you could take two different objects and sit them beside each other, and if they're there long enough, their frequencies will tune up. Right.
Mhm.
So everything has a frequency. So the world around us, the universe around us, has a frequency, a very very studied music. Back in the Middle Ages, they called it the music of the
Music of the
spheres, believing
spheres.
that the stars
Yes.
themselves made. That's right, made the sounds and make this music. I firmly believe that that music is out there. We as human beings decided, 7,000 years ago that, what, we're better than this world around us. We're going to step out of the world. We're going to have a civilization. We're going to put up walls. Inside is the civilized, outside is the uncivilized. That's where dread lives. That's where nightmare lives, right? That's where the stuff of nightmares out there. We are going to be now fortified. We're going to be cloistered, and we're going to forget about where we came from. Once we forgot about where we came from, now everything that goes bump in the night has become our nightmare, right?
Yeah.
No longer are we in tune to the world around us. And that is the problem as well, too. If we were tuned in the world around us, not only would we care about our fellow man, but we would care about everything that was out there, right? We wouldn't be polluting, we wouldn't be destroying. But we have decided that we will no longer be part of that rhythm. But the sad thing is, though, at any time we can step back into it. But
Oh,
in
yeah.
order to step back into it, we have to give up a lot of what we really care about, But it is kind of mystical thinking. It's sort of quasi religious as well too. But I just firmly think, looking through so many ancient texts, looking through so many different belief systems, that the world began understanding religion by admiring and fearing and loving the world around us, because this is, after all, Mother Nature, right? And we believed that there were spirits within the world around us that we could speak with and possibly ask favors for and petition. And eventually we would start growing and growing, and our religions became very more anthropomorphic, and now God was into play. But at the very essence of all this stuff is you and me living within a natural world that it took care of us, and we took care of it, and we forgot about that.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. There's no argument whatsoever on that. There's no question in my mind. We know that the First Nations people respected the earth. They were the earth. It lived through them. So forth, and perfect balance.
Yeah.
Robin
And whenever you think,
Sims.
yep.
There's
Just to
one.
piggyback on that. Yeah, just to piggyback on that real quick. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Whenever you talk about the First Nations people, whether it's the Pueblo or the Inuit or so many other words, the name simply means the people, right?
Yeah.
It's not anything different. It's just we are
The
people.
people.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. That's a beautiful way to look at the world.
Yep. That's how it should be.
Mhm.
Uh, back in October 2001, I saw a bright light that lit up the hillside across from our mobile home, and it traveled toward our home, came in through the window, and floated down the hallway. And we hear this, don't we, Ron?
Yes.
I mean, Stan has literally told me multiple stories and accounts of this. Like,
I know.
this happens.
It does. It does. And, again, we could talk about this. Stan sometimes thinks that these are UFO probes. That's one of the theories out there as well, too. Or it could be something from the outside coming inside to check out what's going on in the world. But it's interesting, and people don't want to talk about this stuff because it's so out of the ordinary, right? So I think probably far more people have had these experiences, but they simply don't want to talk about it because who's going to believe me?
Well, yeah. I mean, there you go. Like Eric, perhaps it's different phenomena checking each other out. We can't rule it out, man. I mean, we can't rule it out. And I think that's one of the more important things about it. The data, like you said, we have almost the same way of thinking on some of this stuff because we didn't just come up with it. We didn't just read that somewhere.
No.
We looked at the data, and the data led us here.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that we led the data, and with a lot of this research, my friend, like especially Bigfoot research, there's a lot of people being led by the data rather than, or the other way around. Sorry. We need more people being led by the data rather than the people leading the data. That's what I'm trying to get at, because that's kind of what's happening out there. Mm-hmm. It's like people are rewriting the data to suit their belief systems.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't do that.
Yeah, that's so. And that's when we talked about before the idea of experts, right? Experts come about because they believe that they can interpret the data that's out there. They believe that the data is sacrosanct. They believe that they can somehow scientifically understand what's going on. I've heard a lot of researchers, a lot of these talking heads on TV, that they know if it's a Bigfoot track, if it's legitimate or not, because it has the mid-tarsal break and it's 17 to 21 inches, right? That's what you always hear. Anything outside that is obviously a hoax. And you're dealing with information that has been gathered by other people and now given to you. But what are you supposed to do with somebody like me that discovered tracks that were about the size of a toddler, but it looks like Bigfoot as well, too? I mean, what do you do about that? You don't throw that kind of stuff out. You have to kind of now reinterpret what might be going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more. Brandon?
Yeah, I completely agree too.
Yes. Now, somebody's talked about a UFO sighting here, Robin Sims.
Where's it at? That's what I was trying to find. I thought I saw someone.
And what I'm confused. Was she the one that had the one that came into her house?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people, whenever they deal with Bigfoot phenomenon or UFO phenomenon, it doesn't happen just once, right? It seems as if these people are targeted and are followed repeatedly, or sometimes even a whole family throughout generations are followed by this phenomenon as well.
Mm-hmm. And, the phenomena can be misinterpreted, my friend. I mean, look at it, paranormal phenomena. Well, what is that really?
That's right.
And there you go. The light flowed from one end of the trailer to the other. The electric went off. Yeah. It was off in our area for hours. And you remember what happened with us down at Logan. Mm-hmm. We went out on the trail when I caught the thermal thing, whatever it was out there. The power went off before that happened.
Right.
I think I remember when New York City had that big power outage back in the 70s, there were a lot of UFO sightings during that period.
That's right.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yep. That whole Hudson River Valley system up there was getting a lot of those sightings before the power went out. So are these things now drawing the power, drawing artificial power in order to manifest itself? That's something else we have to consider as well. Yeah.
I mean, the thing, there it was. I just found the UFO. That wasn't our first experience and sure wasn't our last. On May 25th, we actually saw a UFO. There you go, right there. Robin, Phil, I just updated everybody who's here. I just updated our sightings form, by the way, on the website. It's a lot more a little more precise now. You got a little bit more definition to things. You can go over there and fill that out. That would help, and I'll add that to our data set as well, because every little bit of data helps, and we take it from everywhere now. It's not just West Virginia, by the way.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, guys, you got questions for this man? It's who you want to ask. So, by all means, post your questions up and we'll get them to him. Now, Ron, I'm curious as to uh, when did you literally get started in this? We've never really discussed that. Like, what put Ron Murphy on the track to, looking for Earth lights and Bigfoot and all this?
Right. So my mother was a voracious reader, so she really had an interest in the paranormal. So as a kid, she was always talking about Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, Atlantis, ancient aliens, all this kind of stuff. And there was shows back then, right in the 70s, like In Search of, right,
Search of,
and
yeah.
that's incredible. So as a kid, and I think all children are wide eyed until they're indoctrinated out of it. But all kids like to look at the world around them and think, what is out there, right? So I was able to do that throughout my youth. And, before the internet or anything, we'd have to go to libraries, which was a fun thing, and get out the card catalogs and find
Yep.
out where Bigfoot's located. It was kind of like a Bigfoot hunt, right?
It
Right? We were
was,
looking for
man.
tracks.
Oh, card catalogs were just wonderful, weren't they? What
It was.
number? And then somebody they
Yeah,
would never put the books back in the right place. Like it would never be where it
right.
should be. Yeah,
That's right.
great
It made
times,
no
man.
logical sense whatsoever. You know that. Yeah, it made no logical sense at all. But that's what I did. And then I went to a parochial school. I went to Catholic school until I was in eighth grade. And I am convinced that one of the nuns there had to be a closet paranormal investigator because this library was probably the size of an average kitchen or something like that. And it was stocked with a lot of books on the paranormal, which was great. They had
Wow,
Von Donick in there, or track of Bigfoot. It had
wow.
so much things. So as a young kid, I was able to just sit there and just devour these books. And of course, I don't think that anybody in Western Pennsylvania could have got their start without Stan Gordon. And
Oh
Stan
yeah.
Gordon would be on KDKA radio. My mom and I would listen to where he said there was Bigfoot sightings. And back in the late 70s, there was Bigfoot sightings around my little town. And the next day, my mom would load my brother and I up in the car, and we would go looking for Bigfoot in the areas where Stan Gordon said there was something going on. So, I always had this this wonder to me. Okay, my mom was very stern, if you will, in keeping that innocence alive, what might be out there. So it just continued with me out throughout my whole life. Now, I will tell you the first time I ever met Stan Gordon, it was like meeting a rock star, and to
Yeah.
put this out. So, yeah, I'm right now, I'm 54 years old. Stan Gordon, I was listening to him whenever I was in grade school, right? And the last time I saw him, he looks better than I do. So I'm convinced
Yeah.
that whatever radiation he got off
Yeah.
these
That's what it
UFOs,
is.
it's
Yeah.
almost like the fountain of youth, right? That's exactly what's
Yeah.
going on. The guy doesn't age anymore. But yeah, so he was a rock star of the paranormal. But then I had went to graduate school up to Indiana, Pennsylvania, and my brother and I, he was living with me at the time, and you know what? In the summertime, we started to hear some strange vocalizations going on. We had no idea what it was. It was like a howl and a whistle combined. And that went for the period of the first summer we were there. And the second summer we were there, we start hearing this stuff again. It always happened between the hours of 12 and 3 in the morning, that classic witching hour, right? It
Yeah.
only happened whenever there was no rain, the weather was warm and everything like that. And it only happened in the summertime, too. It was like a woo, woo sound, okay?
Wow.
So we decided, we were in our 20s, we're young men in good shape. We decided that next time we hear this sound, we are going to investigate it. And sure enough, it was probably about 2:30 in the morning. Whoop, whoop is going on. So we thought, we're going to go catch this. So I grabbed a sword, because you have to
As
have a
one
sword.
does.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And my brother grabbed a baseball bat, and we went outside to find out what was going on. And I will tell you this: the first time I was ever outside, whenever this vocalization was going on, and it was so intense that you could feel it moving within your stomach. It was that kind of sound. So it definitely had a frequency to it. It definitely had a vibration to it, but we still soldiered on. So we went back behind our house where there was a grove of trees, and this grove of trees led to protected university land where nobody could hunt or anything like that. And lots of acres, several hundred acres of woods back there. So we went around, and we knew that we were getting close. The whoop whoop sound was getting louder and louder. So we knew that our quarry now was in that little grove of trees right behind our house. So again, baseball bat, sword, we're ready to go until we got close to seeing whatever this was, and the thing started to growl at us. Now, not only was it growling at us, but it was also still making that whoop sound at the same time. Two different sounds produced by the same creature. The sound that it was making, the growling sound that it was making, was so loud that you could actually hear it taking air in order to make it. And not only was it taking air in, it was wet. You could hear that there was a wet sound to it as well, too. Immediately, it struck us. Like, the flight or fight response kicks in so immediately whenever you hear that, that we decided that we were going to run back to the house. Ran back to the house, locked the door, that was it. And our little whistling visitor never came back around again. Isn't that something?
Wow.
So I asked the neighbors, said, have you ever had any experience like this? I didn't want to come out and say that, I thought it was a Bigfoot or something. But
Yeah.
the lady, one of our neighbors, and we didn't have close neighbors. They were far enough away that, this wasn't like, one up on top of the other. But I said to my one neighbor when she was outside working in her flower garden, I said, do you ever have anything unusual go around here? Because I thought there might have been somebody prowling around the house last night. And she was working in her garden with her little spade. And then she didn't even look up. She just kept on working. She said, I've never seen anything, but I know that several years ago there was a man going through our garbage, which was kind of, unsettling. So I thought, you know what? Gosh darn it. I have to get to the bottom of this. So I went into my house. I did not even have a computer. I had a Sega Dreamcast. That was a video game system that could allow me to access the internet, and the old dial-up internet, right? So I go on there, and I go to Google, and I type Bigfoot in Pennsylvania, and one site came up. Can you imagine that now? If you would type Bigfoot in Pennsylvania, that would come up. One website came up, and that was Eric Altman's Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society. And I called him up, and I said, hey, I think something really strange happened. And he came to my house, and his first investigation was my experience. How about that for serendipity?
Wow.
Now we do events together and everything else like that. But without him coming up and believing in what happened and showing me what happened, it's all interconnected, guys. It's all interconnected.
Dude, you heard my story how I met Stan. It's the same thing. And we all just like travel in this big circle together. That people have no idea how much synchronicity is involved when you open that door. Go ahead, Brandon.
It's a coincidence.
No, there isn't. There's none. And speaking of coincidences, when you're talking about that thing, the way it was breathing, you heard it breathing.
Yes.
Our last video we just did where we were down in Salt Fork, that's one of the things that Glenn was talking about on that video was how when this thing breathed, it just basically left him with this memory of like, this thing's going to suck all the air out of me. It's that big. So, I mean, you're saying the same words, ages apart. It's crazy.
And it is terrifying to think that whatever was out there, whatever physically manifested at that particular moment was something that was huge and formidable and, quite frightening, right? Yeah. It was able to keep us at bay without making any kind of contact whatsoever. So if we talk about infrasound or pheromones or whatever was happening, but this creature was able to confront us without being confrontational.
Very passive aggressive.
Yep, exactly.
That's amazing, isn't it? Robin, boy, she shared quite the experience over here from UFO to the continuation. My adult daughter had an experience with her infant son on the scenic highway in Tennessee. She messaged me about 11 p.m. saying that a light was in the sky above her. When she stopped at a pull-off, she kept messaging me saying the light was getting closer and brighter. And then she went silent.
Wow.
For almost a half an hour, she was silent. I messaged her siblings, terrified, but I'm in West Virginia and she's in the mountains in Tennessee alone with the baby. Finally, she messages me back. She lost time, had no idea what I was talking about. She said she woke up to her baby screaming in the car seat. She didn't remember the lights or messaging me. To this day, she refuses to talk about it. Now, these things, they sound like, wow, that's rare. No, it's not rare at all. These things happen on almost a continuous base. People just don't talk about them, like you said, Ron.
That's right. You just don't talk about them. I remember whenever I was doing graduate work in Scotland, I was able to visit a place called Dune Hill, which was considered a fairy hill back in the Renaissance. And the reason why that was the case is because there was a minister, Robert Kirk, who claimed that he had a fairy sighting there. But it wasn't a normal fairy sighting. He was walking the trail home at night, and in the woods he saw a light, and a light at the side of a hill, as a matter of fact. And he said the hill opened up. So if we were in the 21st century and we were talking about this, hey, I was walking out in the hill and something had landed over there, right? This is how it works, right? Because now we're working with with what our culture understands. And a door opened up, right? He didn't call a door opened up. He said a light emanated out of the side of the hill. And he was brave enough and he took a peek in and he saw different types of creatures within that hill. And he saw it as fairies. Some people would have seen it as ghosts. Other people would have seen it as UFOs. Whatever the case, what we're saying is that, again, this is not happening in a vacuum. There's historical precedent to this. So what Robin is seeing is this something very similar to what Robert Kirk probably saw, 300-400 years ago. And it's probably very similar to what the Australian Aboriginal saw 35,000 years ago.
Oh yeah. Painting the Wanginas on the wall. Something makes you do that, right? I mean, that's.
Yep. So when you look at the Wangina and you look at the Mimas, so you look at any of these kind of characters out of the Dreamtime, you often see this emanation from their heads.
Right.
A lot of ancient astronaut theorists say that it's helmets. But what happens if it's not a helmet? What happens if what we're seeing there is a representation of what appears to be a glow, a light of some kind, right?
A halo, right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing. Illumination.
That's right. Exactly. Illumination, right? What it basically says, it sets it apart from the others, right? It's an iconography on how to explain it. But I think that's a good thing whenever you said about a halo. I think that is a good designation because what it's showing is these things are set apart from the natural world for some reason, but they're not set apart from the natural world that they become alien. They're set apart from the natural world to show that they are different than us, but they're on rock paintings within a particular area, which shows that they belong there in the natural world. They're not put up on altars. They're not separated. They're not taken out from the world. They are imprinted on the very world itself.
Which makes sense. It's there. It's in that one area, right? I mean, that's the whole point. And, this is to another thing, Ron. I know that you have a new book coming out. I've heard a little something about that. But what about these places? I learned to dowse ages ago. And, I did water dowsing and whatnot. But I also learned later on, of course, you could dowse for other things. And then I learned about ley lines and so forth and so on. My friend, there are energies out there that some of these things are occurring on. There are literally areas where some of these mounds were built that these energies are converging on. This is not a coincidence.
That's right. Yeah, preach on, you guys. So I will tell you, I genuinely love the both of you because you are seeing outside of the box, right? You've taken the blinders off and you're starting to see. So a lot of people, whenever we talk about ley lines, you're talking about something that's intrinsically European, and that is indeed not the case. There's ley lines all over the place. So we see in Europe, we see in Asia, we even see in Africa, a lot of burial sites are built upon these grid lines within the earth. And in America, the exact same thing. We see that the Native Americans, the First Nations, had built places here as well too, funerary areas where the dead would be interred in hopes of, I don't know, entering into another world from whence other things came from. Is it from experience, what have you? But they believed throughout different cultures separated by time and space that, once life departed, they wanted to bury that particular person they loved in a place that had high energies. Hopefully to bring, whatever their ideas were. We can only figure out what's going on there. But when we look at places in Europe, we see that before anything, there was often pagan sites built on there, pagan temples to various gods and goddesses. And then whenever the church came through, the one with the capital C, the Catholic Church, they would tear down these particular monuments to pagan deities and put up the Catholic Church, right? The church is there.
Yeah.
But if we, again, peel back the onion right there, those sites were sacred for a reason. And what indeed was that reason?
Yeah, there had to be a catalyst at some point.
There had to be. There had to be a catalyst. And there also has to be a reason why these sacred structures around the world always are in an oval pattern. So if you're looking at Newgrange in Ireland, which is an old funerary mound that dates before the Great Pyramids, we see these circles all over the place, right? Then Stonehenge is a circle, Avebury is a circle.
Yeah.
We have all these circles all over the place. That means something too. And we see rock art with these circular patterns in China, in Africa, and then of course the great ones in the Southwest United States. The idea that these circles represent an opening, a portal, whatever you want to call it, it's up to interpretation.
Yeah.
But it shows that these places were sacred, and they delineated these places away from the other world. It was almost as if they declared these places sacred over the profane around them.
Tepe is also a series of circles.
Yes. Göbekli Tepe.
Oh, absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely. Yep. Again and again and again.
Yeah. We see it constantly repeated, these circles. Circles. Well, this in symbology and in like some of the first language, the circle and the dot, those were the first literal interpretations of God. The dot, and then the circle, the all-encompassing circle was the everything, the universe, basically.
That's right.
These are deep metaphysical thoughts. These are deep physical thoughts and deep science thoughts that were literally expressed with two symbols.
That's right.
At one time, man.
Right. So if we
That's amazing.
Yeah, if we go even deeper, we see places like Stonehenge, right? In the Great Circular Monument. But then again, what do we do about crop circles, which are these circular patterns?
Yeah, let's talk about it because hardly anybody does. So
That's right.
Let's go there.
Yeah, so if you and I were studying it, we could call ourselves Cereologists, right? A real great name because of the cereal. But you can see medieval manuscripts that show a figure believed to be Satan
mowing the
right. So that, of course, is us projecting on the environment that something evil was going on. But this is my belief, okay? And I wrote about this in my fairy book. I believe that the ancient man dealt with this kind of stuff happening in the environment around them, and in order to memorialize what was going on, they built structures that are made of stone so it will be permanent. So I do believe that Stonehenge was built in such a way, in such a configurement, to mimic what they saw happening in the actual earth itself. I know that might seem a little strange, but whenever you go even deeper, what Stonehenge was used for, there's now a very modern theory that it was used as a healing area, almost like a hospital. And there was a university over in England. I can't remember what it was, but it's in my book. But they went inside there and they started to use drums. And they found out that Stonehenge acts as an echo chamber, and it holds that. And that reverberation could indeed have impacts on the body itself, right? It might indeed be able to heal them through what we started this whole show about, talking about vibrations and frequencies, right? We're talking about vibrations and frequencies again. And to go even a step further, if we would go back into the 500s, the 600s, the whole ways up until the 13, 14, 1500s, we look at the medieval cathedrals, right? And guess what? Whenever you go in there with people that do Gregorian chants or any kind of sacred singing, it becomes an echo chamber as well too, and it reverberates upon the human spirit, also capable of drawing healing on people, right? So again and again and again, it keeps on showing up time after time. And it might be that whenever we talk about like these things appearing on the land like crop circles, is it possible that these are teaching lessons for us? That this was a way for the natural world to say, this is what you need to do. This is what you have to do in order to heal oneself.
Oh yeah, I absolutely 100% agree. And Robin asked, do crop circles occur in West Virginia? Robin, yeah, they actually have occurred in West Virginia. You can't see that probably, but this is one of the circles I investigated back in, I want to say it was 1994. July 16th, 1994. Now, what's interesting about this circle is this circle appeared in my neighbor's field. There's a circle within a circle within a circle within a circle.
Wow.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one of these was about 4 inches wide. And by the time I got to it, he had mowed it down. But I did get there. I got there within 3 days. And what's really weird about this one, Ron, you'll find this interesting. This is back when I was doing my what would now be called C5, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't calling it that. I was doing out-of-body research, and I came to the conclusion that there was an intelligence involved, and I was making contact. So I started some experiments. This happened literally within a 5-day window of that, and this was about 600 yards or so from my house.
What? See? Okay.
Yes, it happened.
We'll talk about this as well, too, right? So,
yeah, go ahead.
You are an investigator.
Investigator and experiencer.
Now, right. What you're investigating, what you're experiencing now is come looking for you, right? That's what it seems like. Right. That's whenever I start getting those tingly feelings, because the same thing happened to me as well. Like, how do you explain that? So whenever it happened to me, it was a winter. School was called off. I opened up the door. There was not any tracks in the new fallen snow at all, except one series of tracks that I thought, well, this looks kind of strange. And I looked down at them and I saw that they were about maybe 5 inches long, except they were barefoot. It looked like a small child was walking outside. And I thought, hey, there's a small child walking outside. So I went to find out where the trackway started, because I was surrounded by woods, thinking the trackway would start in the woods. Guess what? It didn't start in the woods. It started in the middle of my yard. So there was one track that came down. It was a right track, and then it was another right track, and then it was a left-right track, as if something either took a while to materialize or took a while as if it stepped into our reality, okay? It came up to my window. The track came up to my window, pointed as if it was looking inside my window, went over my hill, and disappeared again. So maybe 100 yards. I have photographs of all this kind of stuff. It was so unnerving, because as a Bigfoot investigator, to think that something like that was now investigating me, which goes to show it knew who I was, right? Yeah. It knew who I was. So now the investigator is being investigated.
Yeah. Well, I was conducting experiments for validation, because I could see where this was kind of going. I didn't like it. Back in those days, I didn't really honestly believe in a lot of the whole, alien contact, abductions, and all that stuff that was going on, and it was big back in the 90s. It was huge. You couldn't turn a TV on. You remember. Yeah.
I know.
And I didn't really, I was like, okay, so it happens, but again, I'm thinking this is like Bigfoot. It's rare. No, but, and it took a long time to actually come to grips with the fact that, something is going on. Now, you can call it what you want. I still have it. Like I said, I still don't have labels for it. It's just what it is. I can just tell you something happened, and it's happening to this day. We have people over here right now in the room who are relating almost the same kind of stuff that we're saying right here.
It's unnerving, isn't it? We are looking at people who come from different walks of life and different areas and everything. and they're talking about the exact same thing that we've experienced.
Which is just amazing. Like I
It
said,
is.
there's so much relation to this, my friend. There's
That's
so
right.
much relation to it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Everybody, keep sharing your experiences over here. Ron's seeing them, and if you got questions, pop them up there, and we'll get to them. Hi, Brandon. You got any questions, real quick there?
Have you taken any readings, Ron? Like in those crop circles? Did you take any? Did you have any
Back
meters?
back in the day, how much would a Geiger counter cost back in the day, Ron?
Probably a lot back
Do you,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure it was not enough for my my young self to afford back then. But you make a
One from
very
the
good.
Cold War auction.
Well, yeah, but those again not very accurate. But I will say this: now that we do have the equipment, yeah, you don't think that if I get a call that there's a circle, there's a strange, spot somewhere in somebody's yard, we're showing up with a Geiger counter, we're showing up with a spectrum analyzer, EMF meters. We got the whole truckload out there now, which reminds me, Mr. Murphy, we are definitely going back into your area at some point soon. We have to. That's all there is to it.
I cannot wait. Maybe we can even do a live show from the field or something like that.
Dude, it would be awesome if we had, even if we can't do it live, we'll record it and make sure it goes out. You know what I mean?
I'm completely in. Just let me know.
Oh,
My
for
door is
sure.
always open for you, my friends. I cannot wait. I would be honored to do that with you.
Yeah, it would be great. I know I'm coming up that way for Kecksburg, so I'll be up there early.
I'll be in
then.
Pittsburgh too.
Oh, you're going to be there?
Yeah, I will be
Sweet.
there.
Oh, great, man. So, yeah, maybe we can do something while we're up there. Then I'm coming up on a Thursday, so maybe we can go out that evening and
That
just.
sounds like a plan, my friend. We'll do that.
Sounds like I'm bringing the equipment rig, my friend.
And I'll take you to where I've had a lot of different
Okay.
encounters.
Okay, yeah. Let's validate, kind of document some of that stuff and
Sure.
see if there's any validation, right? I mean,
I agree.
it surely can't hurt. Guys, this is becoming a very. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but honestly, this is really good, Ron. If you have any questions for him, like I said, we got Bigfoot, we got UFOs, we've got fairies, even, which is the first time we've ever touched, I believe, that subject on this show, except for just in a like a little. I think we did something with Wayne back in the day, just on the podcast, the old audio podcast. So he would be loving this. He was all about that kind of stuff, actually. What I do recall about fairies is that similarity in the fairy lore to what we would now call possibly an alien experience, extra dimensional experience, something like that, right? Fairyland. The whole concept of fairyland itself, you get whisked away to that, and there's missing time. I mean, it's all this.
Yeah, missing time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get abducted, and they're
Yeah.
left with a carbon copy of themselves. And
Yeah.
the changeling ideas, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But and think about this for a second. There was a belief, several hundred years ago, that you could be sleeping in your bedroom, and it sounds Whitley Strieber like. You could be sleeping in your bedroom, and something from the outside would come into your room, abduct you, and then put you back before you wake up in the morning.
There's
That's
a
pretty
famous
phenomenal.
case in the 1800s. A man swore that his wife had that happen to her, and he killed her.
What?
He had to go to court over it. Yeah, it was in Ireland, I think.
It was, yeah. Mr. McCleary was his name, and his wife went missing for a while, and he waited until there was some friends gathered over because he knew that his wife was acting strangely, and in front of his friends, he set her on fire and killed her because in order to kill a changeling, you got to do it right. He was found guilty, and he only served like 7 years. It wasn't like a life sentence because they believed, I guess. Well, obviously there was some sort of evidence showing that this guy didn't deserve premeditated murder. But the interesting thing about this guy is I think he only served 2 years, but he ended up moving to America then. Yep.
Wow.
I've read too that in a lot of rural places in Ireland, they still very much believe in fairies. They take it pretty seriously too.
Oh yeah. As far as like making so they have ingresses and exits in people's yards as well too, right? So the fences will be open so fairies could go marching and trooping, as it were, through people's yards, and they wouldn't be impeded in any way. Iceland as well, with trolls and their elves and things, they will stop building projects that they feel that they are in land that would have these kind of creatures. But yeah, I think that it's phenomenal about this kind of stuff. But America also has its traditions, and the First Nations people. If you think about the Wampanoag of Massachusetts, up in the Bridgewater Triangle area, we have the things called the puck wedgies, right? And yeah, one of my things that I'm fascinated with, which is interesting because in European tradition we have the puka. So puka and puck wedgie sounds remarkably alike, and this is before any kind of European contact. Which I'll have to conjecture here: is it possible that the creatures, this is what they're saying that their names are? That's a little scary now to think about that. That this is what we are.
Name, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I got you.
yeah.
Wow.
So, and very similar things. Magical, able to appear and disappear at will. Givers of culture in many ways. But just really cool interconnectivity of these things.
Let's see. We got Anita. Anita always has some great stories. We believe in them here in Appalachia. I have photos of a fairy heel in Iceland we went to. As far as Native American First Nations little folk, that's a great example. Yes, it's considered disrespectful to speak of them. Yes, it is. And they can be helpers or not. They can be tricksters. So it kind of depends on which one that you're blessed or cursed with, I suppose.
And sometimes it could be a blessing and curse at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So like a brownie, for instance, this was a creature that was said to be part of a particular location. So they could haunt a particular land or a house or whatever. And if they were in your house, sometimes they would do your work for you, dishes, laundry. I know for a fact that I do not have a brownie, unfortunately, but they would do housework for you. But they were often naked. And if you would leave clothes, that could be, insulting to them. So they would then become destructive. Leave them out a little bit of food, a little bit of milk. Everything will be okay. But basically, if you have a fairy around, just ignore them. That's the whole thing, because once you take notice of them and they know that about them, bad things start happening.
Yeah, and that's kind of reminiscent of some of the early thoughts on a lot of paranormal phenomena. The more you pay attention to it, the more you notice it, or it notices you. And honestly, that's kind of what we see with a lot of this stuff, right?
Yep, just what we talked about.
Yeah.
The crop circle appearing near your house, where you live. The Bigfoot tracks outside of my house. People that have been in this field for years and years now having mind-blowing personal experiences.
Yeah.
It appears as if they do know what we're doing and are keeping tabs.
It absolutely does. And I know that's quite a terrifying thought to a lot of people. But, if it's not the government watching it, then it's probably extra dimensional beings, aliens.
Right, that's right.
But
that's
what's it matter, right? We're always being watched.
Yeah.
But honestly, as far as it goes, man, all we can do, and we like to do this as data sets, right? So what does the data show us, Ron? It shows us that, well, there's something going on that's physical and psychological at times, right? It can be measured sometimes on equipment, so we know that it's leaving a trail. It's leaving some kind of residual energy of some sort. It's interacting with us, and it shows it's intelligent. I mean, I don't know what other to say about that other than, it is what it is. There's something there, my friend.
That's right. There's something there. And I think that the sooner researchers come to terms with it, the sooner we can start moving on and, like you said, collecting valuable data that's absolutely needed. But like you said, a lot of people don't like to talk about it. A lot of people think they're crazy. They're not crazy if they're looking for an 8-foot dog-like creature. Yeah. And they're not crazy if they're looking for a Bigfoot, but they are whenever they're investigating earthlights or if there's fairy activity. Then they become crazy simply because it's not accepted by everybody.
Yep. And, I think that's one of the things a lot of people need to, they're afraid. I remember when Joe, Mr. Big time flesh and blood, man. That was it. There was flesh and blood, always. And then he had that sighting where he saw the light out on the ridge. I got that phone call, and he was like, it changed him at that point.
Right.
And it does. It absolutely does. It was the same thing, Eric, I'm sure that's the same thing with you because you were there. Eric contacted me after he'd seen it. Well, this is what happened. I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
I believe you.
I mean, whenever I was a kid, I grew up believing that this is indeed, the missing link,
Right.
This blockade, all this kind of stuff. These are flesh and blood creatures, and they can't be anything else until they become something completely different. As you do the research, as you collect the data, then it shows that there's something more going on than meets the eye.
Oh,
Well, there definitely
absolutely.
There's stories of people being out in the woods and they'll like look through tree branches and see a totally different forest on through those tree
Are you
branches.
talking about the arch thing, right?
Yeah.
Fairy arch? Is that what they call those?
Yeah. Yep.
Dude, weird is all I'm going to say about that because we never really paid much attention to that kind of stuff until we started paying attention to it, and now you see them everywhere.
They see it everywhere. That's right.
Man, we had some weird stuff happen out on the ridge where Joe was taking me just to show us where he had seen the lights years ago, and we're out there and we noticed he has some kind of misplaced memory kind of thing going on, but it has been 3 years, so that's fair. It could be. But then we got into the position to where we lost several miles, it seemed like. Like we came out at the trailhead a lot faster than we should have. We don't know what happened with that, but one of the weird things is we saw several of those weird arch things out there. We even noted them on the video because it's like, oh, look, you see that, right? It's like, yeah. And then we were up Wineberry. The last time we were up Wineberry, we were filming with Seth, and there's an arch there, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We were just joking about it, but still, it's like, man, it's crazy. Fish belly in an isolated area with group of volunteer firemen watching overnight for hot spots. Saw it twice. Came from same direction both times at a height you can carry a lantern. So there's another typical description of these lights. Fish belly. What color was that one, by the way? And look here, it casts no light, just glowed. That's important, Ron.
That's very important.
Yeah. We discovered that with one of the videos. He's here probably. One of our friends sent us long ago, and it was one of the first good, I think, videos of an orb that I had seen. And we noticed this thing is visible in our camera. It's not casting a shadow at all. And now we've captured these UAP. You've seen the video. We've captured these UAP, and now we've captured ground lights that can only be seen with thermal. It's like sometimes we can't see these things.
Yep.
So they're they're multi-spectral kind of. I don't know what these things are, man. I think we could just.
I've heard stories of people seeing them coming down train tracks, and they think it's a ghost train.
Oh yeah, the ghost train.
Trains. Yep.
You got any ghost train accounts there that you've heard, Ron, by any chance?
Well, I will take you to one of these locations where I've had a lot of stuff. And they do have a ghost train there as well, too. And if it is indeed a ghost train, then it does have a reason to be, because there was quite an accident in this particular area at the turn of the 20th century, and a lot of people got killed. One of the train, the boiler actually blew up on the train.
Oh man,
causing a lot of grievous injuries and a lot of people being scalded to death.
Yeah,
very, very emotional kind of turmoil going on there. But there's a ghost train there, and as Brendan, right, synonymous with the ghost lights as well too. So you don't know what's going on. They seem one and the same, but so it seems one and the same to us, but to other investigators, no, it's a ghost train, right? That's what you get. But yeah.
Because it's viewed within whatever the culture or whatever the belief system dictates that we should look at these things with.
That's right.
Maybe they're attracted to tragedies like that.
It's very possible. Well, the fairy lore, a lot of times people that say that they go to the fairy realm, into the other world, Chirnanog or whatever you want to call it, that oftentimes they see their deceased loved ones there as well too. So it's
Yeah.
almost if that other world is also the abode of the dead as well too, which is very interesting to think about. So the fairies kind of straddle the world between this life and the other world as well. So that's pretty cool.
We have
And
a Facebook user that's requesting something here, my friend.
That's right. That's right. And we did mention the Brown Mountain Lights at the very, very beginning of the show. And just anecdotally, when we were talking about the
Hmm.
Mimas Lights in Australia, and the Marfa Lights in Texas. But what this goes to show you is that throughout the country and throughout the world as well, that there are these colloquial places where people know these lights by various little names and everything. But it is known throughout the world and it's ubiquitous.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. They're this everywhere. I mean, literally. And, we hear a lot of people are like, especially the Brown Mountain Lights, Marfa Lights. Oh, that's just, there's a light across the blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah. Man, these were happening hundreds of years ago.
that's right. That's right.
There was no lights.
That's a good point because I believe that in the Marfa lights they're also called like the Apache lights because they were
That's right.
the ghost of fires
Spirits.
and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, right,
Yep.
right. Yep.
If you've ever
Well,
actually seen swamp gas ignite, it's very quick. It doesn't last very long. It's like a poof.
I've never
right.
actually seen it, but I would imagine that's exactly what we
It's
would
scary
see.
when you see it.
Have you
I've had
seen
happen
it?
before.
You've seen it.
I've never seen it.
Oh my goodness. You've seen swamp gas? Ladies and gentlemen, you've met people who've seen UFOs. You've met people who've seen Bigfoots, aliens, and so forth. But I honestly can say, I'll bet you have never met someone who has seen actual real swamp gas. It does exist. Thank you,
Swamp
Brandon.
gas guy.
That's amazing. Anita Allen. William had advised me to discount the Bigfoot stories with the woo factor. See, this happens all the time. I agreed until I had my first encounter, and it was all woo stuff. Yes, because it happens more often than you have been led to believe. And a lot of that has to do with media, don't you think, Ron?
Oh my goodness, yeah. There are some really good shows out there,
Yeah.
but there are some pretty bad shows out there as well too, right? So I think that the media has,
Heidi.
the media is allowed to disseminate it in ways like it's never been done before, but it's what people do with that kind of knowledge and what direction they go in as well too. There's one particular show out there, I even forget what the name is, but it keeps on showing these old and worn out videos that have been known now for about a decade, and a lot of them have been considered hoaxes at least that long. And they have investigators on there, saying this is obviously what we're looking at. I don't think one piece of information on there has ever been even attempted to be debunked in any way, but they just see it as gospel truth, everything that comes on there, and that's dangerous because that's suggesting that every time somebody goes out in the field that what they're seeing is indeed an anomaly and something supernatural.
Well, they might cut out all of that so they don't get sued by the person who owns the rights to the video.
That's
Nah, maybe, but they're like I said, it's kind of the paranormal is kind of becoming a hot topic now, so more people are paying a little bit more attention to it as well. But I do believe, like Stan has said, it has definitely increased. Sightings have increased. We're having more interaction with these things, and they're close up interactions.
I'm like 99% sure at this point that a lot of the woo stuff that people encounter, regardless of what spectrum it is, whether it's ghosts or UFOs or Bigfoot, the more I look into it, the more I'm convinced that it's actually the Fae messing with people for some reason. I don't really know why, but if you look back at the ancient accounts, the way that they describe the Fae, it really ties in a lot to that woo. The way that they act and behave.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll even like try to lure you out in the woods using the woo.
Absolutely.
Like old stories.
Well,
absolutely.
babies crying. We've had
know
that
that
discussion.
stuff.
Yeah,
Exactly.
man. Yeah. I mean, look at all the people here tonight, guys.
Owls turning into things.
Well, you had to say
Falling
owls,
down.
didn't you? You had to do the owl thing. I was trying to not
to.
do an episode where we didn't talk about owls.
Yeah.
It-
Well, what's interesting though, and I'm glad you brought that up, is because what's interesting whenever Whitley Strieber had his encounter,
Yeah.
he said that the thing reminded him of an owl,
Yeah.
something out of nature. But he also said, and I don't know if you gentlemen remember this or not, but whenever he was taken to the craft in the woods, he said entering the craft, it had a very natural smell to it. It said the
Mm.
creatures and the craft smelled like cinnamon,
Oh,
as
I do
if
remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
as if what he was seeing, what as it's as if he was in the natural world, but he was almost duped into believing he was on a spaceship.
Hmm. Yeah, I firmly believe that a lot of the I used to say this back in the day, back when I used the word abduction. I don't use that anymore. But the contact experiences, dude, there's a lot of them that are not physical.
No, absolutely,
There is
absolutely.
probably more that are not physical,
Mhm.
and a lot of those are the weird ones. Those are the ones where you can just, how easy is it just to, you got this ability, you can mess with someone's mind to make them see anything you want, man. They would
Right.
never believe anything that happened to them. It's the best camouflage you could possibly. And
By
it's
far.
also like I told, we were having this conversation not long ago. I was like, well, think about it like this. It's brilliant because what if it was about validation? What if the end goal is some kind of validation? Well, when we've done this before, we may talk to someone, say, on California. Well, a lot of people have seen UFOs, right? But how many people have seen, have been in well, I had this dream, but it didn't feel like it was more real, You hear those stories. Well, in the dream, I saw, I don't know, let's just make up something, a penguin, and it was juggling three balls. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, that's weird. And then it started talking to me. And then you're like, well, what's weird about it is I had the exact same experience. How? So you see, what better way to create a validation experience than to put something so obscure into some of these
Right.
people's heads?
That's
We
right.
saw that with communion.
That's right.
We
You're right.
saw that with communion. I mean, that was some of those things were just like, dude. Some of those things were just spot on. I mean, you talk about the cold chill factor you were getting. We feel that sometimes because we read our own stuff or we hear our own stories
Mhm.
coming out of someone else's mouth. That's validation.
Sure.
You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've heard weird stories like people will be like on vacation at a national park and they'll try to take a picture of an animal they see, and then when they get the picture developed or whatever, the animal's not in the picture.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I
but
can see
I could have
that.
swore it was right there. How did I not get it? A duck
Well,
or
come
something?
on.
Oh.
I mean, you watched the video, Brandon. Joe was out there chasing a ghost possum.
Yep.
Let's not forget, Joe was chasing a ghost possum.
Wow.
So, um, I don't know
I
how
was
to
trying to
explain
lure
that
him
one.
off somewhere, I bet. But that's what
Well,
it was.
remember, it's in front of me, it disappears, and then he's over there whistling and hear a little whatever it is, and then it just disappears. But and then our batteries die. But yeah, man, it's there's some weird stuff going on. Ron, it seems to me that I remember hearing something at some point about, I don't know if it was you or if it was someone else. They had seen some ghost lights or orbs or whatever they were, and they described them as fireflies.
Yep. Yep.
And I did a little research after that, and I'm like, oh my, this is a thing.
Hmm.
Like, you want to touch on that a little bit because I don't think a lot of people, uh, we're getting into the warmer months. Now we are going to see fireflies,
Right. We are. We are.
but
Um,
these are different, right? That's what I'm
yeah.
getting at.
It was. So this was an investigation that I did. Oh, I don't even know, 15 years ago maybe.
Yeah,
And I was with Brian Seach, Terry and Brian Seach. We were
yeah,
investigating a place in the Laurel Highlands, and off the Chestnut Ridge,
of
and
course.
there was fireflies everywhere, everywhere, until we start noticing that these lights that we're seeing is not your typical light. This is, as I said, an LED glow. It looked as if somebody bought one of those LED Christmas trees and just had one light on. It was that kind of intense. So there was definitely fireflies around, but there was also something else going on there as well too. To the point is, and this is how I would describe it. We were in a wooded area that we were this place that we investigate used to have a train running through it where the ghost train comes from, but it has a train running through it, and right now all the railroad tracks have been replaced with the rails to trail system, right? So it's just
Yeah.
a gravel path through the woods now. So there was it was a path through the woods. The trees were overgrown around it, so it appeared as if it was like a living tunnel, right? And what had happened was these lights that we were seeing that we assumed were coming from fireflies now kind of configured themselves in such a way that they provided light to a particular area. And I remember vividly, and it was nothing terrifying. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. But I remember vividly where this semicircular column of light was moving in tandem down the trail towards us. So it was as if these things were acting almost in a kind of hive mentality where it was illuminating a particular area and just following down the trail, nothing menacing or anything. It was as if they were, researching, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
That brings back memories of Revolution. I love that show. If you never watched it, watch it.
No.
Oh, yeah, the Fireflies. It turns out to be something completely different, which is kind of wild. I'm looking at Anita's over here. I was going to pop it up here real quick. Oh, what? Did someone? Oh,
Donate.
Yep. I see that. I'll get that in a sec. My sister went to a ghost-like location on a date. She can't recall where it was, but about an hour from Roanoke, my friend Becky has a fireball that is said to come up over one of the nearby graves on a hill down by the creek. We see this a lot with graves and whatnot. I'm trying to find this. Where's it? Oh, okay. It's Adam. Adam, thank you. It is most appreciated, my friend, so much. Adam also wanted to tell us that it was cinnamon and wet cardboard.
Oh, right.
That was the other part.
Yeah.
Wet cardboard. Yeah.
Combination.
Yeah, it is, right? Yeah, but that's the kind of thing that you got to think about. I mean, is it really happening? Or is it happening here? Or is it happening in both places?
Right.
Something I was just thinking about.
Yeah.
Maybe what they're really attracted to is the human soul, because people say that people have auras that glow different colors, and you can see
Right.
constantly. And I've even heard of mediums see people die, and they'll see a light come out of their chest.
Yeah.
Maybe that is connected. Maybe they're the same thing.
I can personally
Made out of the
attest
same
to the
thing.
fact that the orb thing at close to a passing, that happens. Yeah, and it's wild. It's the color. I think that's the most important part with a lot of these things too. A lot of those types, they're like a bluish white color. Some of these
you also
ones that
know
were
how energy can't be created or destroyed. Maybe
Mhm.
there's some left over wherever we're buried at after we die, and that's what they're attracted to.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
It's just a theory.
Yeah. I kind of like that theory that when we talk about energy, it's very possible that the ancients, one of the reasons why they did bury their dead in these particular spots is because they believed that energy would somehow either be returned or quite possibly the energy which the human being had would be returned back to the environment from which it came.
Yeah, maybe.
Full circle, and that's that's a mentality of a lot of cultures, and
Absolutely.
the Ouroboros. So yeah.
Or maybe
Never
like
ending.
that energy all together in one small area would make that area more powerful and attractive.
Very possible as well, too. Very possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had an experience in a Fairy Hill. Here's another one. When we left the hillside trail, you could see a zigzag of fireflies lighting up the entire forested trail down the mountain and up to the next ridge we were standing on. Not anywhere else in the woods, just our path. Guys, here's what I'm going to tell you. We issued, the whole thing before. Of course, we gave you the warning of watching for owls and deer and so forth. Watch for fireflies, because apparently there's something out there that's mimicking fireflies now, right, Ron? I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like.
It's odd that I had that experience and she had one that was extremely similar.
Yeah. And right there, it's almost the exact same thing. And yeah, that's a good point, James. The Ba and the Ka, that's the soul, and what was the other part? Oh man, I can't remember. It's the Egyptian belief, and yes, there's a lot more to it than that too. But that's what makes up
The
us.
had 5 parts, I think.
There's more than that, but yeah, it makes up us. It's energy can't be destroyed. You're right, absolutely. But yeah, man. I mean, these people over here in the chat, they're echoing everything,
They are.
literally that we've been talking about.
Yeah,
So
It's good because we're not alone here, my friend. We're not alone.
No,
We're
we're
seeing that
not.
other people are having the exact same experiences.
Yeah, that's why it's important to talk about this kind of stuff and get this stuff shared out there and get more people talking about it because it's not that unusual. You know, I'll go to do these shows, and we do this thing where we always ask people, how many have had experiences, and I got that from watching. Stanton Friedman. He said back when he started, he was always afraid to do it at the beginning of his lectures. He waited until the end. I'm like, well, we're going to do it at the beginning because I want to see how many are, say anything right off the bat. And I'm shocked at the amount of people who do put that hand up, who are experiencers. And then, of course, the inevitable. How many actually report it? Not very many.
Not very many at all.
Not very many at all. They don't know where to report it.
That's stigma.
It is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people come to conferences, paranormal conferences, that acts almost like a confessional, right? That we will listen and we will not judge. We won't ridicule. We listen to what they have to say. And this might be the only time that they have to get something off their chest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's important about these things, and that's why we keep our lives the way that they are, where these people they can share their experiences. They're in a good place, and I'll say this, man. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've talked about it for years now. And I always thought in the beginning, I'm going to go out there and someone's just going to be like, oh, swamp gas weather balloons, you're crazy. To this day, I've never had one person do that. I don't care if they do. It doesn't bother me because here's what I would tell you if you do. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm here to say what happened to me, and if that resonates with just one person, I probably did what I was supposed to do. Because I think that's what it's all about. It's about validation. I don't know what it is, but I think Ron has an idea of what it is. It's about us realizing that we're more than what we are, right?
That's right. That's right. It's kind of like an evolutionary process. I think that in the beginning, whenever that was, whether we look at a Judeo-Christian Genesis or we look at the theory of evolution, but I think that in the beginning, whenever we were, anatomical man with the mind that we have right now, I think that we could realize that the natural world around us was filled with things that we could not explain, with things that sometimes interacted with us and we interacted with them. We still have a cultural memory of this stuff, but through time, as we evolved, we've decided that we were not going to deal with that anymore, and we stepped out of that natural rhythm.
Yeah, man.
Something I just thought of that could be part of the phenomenon.
Go ahead, bud.
One of the most common ghost stories out there are the woman in white stories. And they almost always want you to take them somewhere or follow them somewhere. So maybe that's tied to the phenomenon.
I like
Maybe
it.
that's a screen image that they're putting up.
Maybe.
Just the generic woman in white.
Yeah, the generic woman in white or the woman in gray or whatever the stories, right?
That's right. And that, to piggyback on that, that reminds me very much of a banshee, okay, which just simply means a woman fairy. And we talked about how some of these kind of experiencers have a whole family that is part of that experience. Same way with a banshee. It sometimes would attach itself to a particular family and be there the entire time with it. But yeah, absolutely. There's so much stuff, so much, as I said, so much connecting the dots that we really have to look at this closely and just not shrug it off.
I like this. This like Pat just said. No, we're non-judgmental listening of life experiences is therapeutic. He's absolutely right. I mean, I'm very proud of our little community. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I will tell you. Whenever we went to West Virginia, the folks that showed up there really wanted to be there. This wasn't like, I'm curious and I'm bored. They wanted to be there, and not only did they want to be there,
they stayed.
Absolutely, they're very intelligent people asking questions. It was the best kind of crowd in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I love going out and doing these things. It's a blast, to get out there and talk to people. And we have Lisa Beard. Hello, Mr. Murphy.
That's right. Well, Lisa and Dee are actually two friends of mine, and I've worked closely with them. They're very gifted, sensitive. So,
awesome!
A lot of the stuff that I've been talking about tonight also included them as well. So I am very pleased that they tuned into the show here. But we're actually going to be writing a book together here on a haunted location in Western Pennsylvania. So I'm glad to see those two beautiful faces in there with me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and again, I think that's probably part of this too. I'm sure there was just a synchronous event that put all of you guys together, and now you're working on a project. This is how this stuff works. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, we went to school together. Lisa and I went to school together. We didn't even know each other. It's one of those kind of things, you know. We were from the same area and everything like that, but it's just odd how everything does come together. Yep. I do firmly believe in the idea of a soul tribe and this idea that kindred spirits, you know, have known each other for eternity.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really up to us every lifetime to kind of find each other.
You can tell when you meet somebody.
Oh,
you feel like you've known them your whole life, and you've only known them 5 minutes.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's great amounts of research still to be done. Like I said, it's all about. For me, I know a lot of people look at this, like I said, in different belief systems, and that's fine. I don't really care. Again, you can look at it as fairies, you can look at it as gnomes, you can look at it as aliens, as ghosts, or whatever you want to look at it as. It doesn't matter. But for me, I want that data. I want to see the numbers. I want to see how it's affecting my equipment. And I want not just one piece of equipment. I want multiple pieces. Because when I have those multiple validations, it's a lot harder for Mr. Skeptic to come over and say, wait a minute, that's this. Oh, is it? And how do we explain this? Well, how come we have, and this is a true story, Ron, we have a case that I've heard about in the collective, where some of our members, they had actually recorded ionizing and non-ionizing radiation at the same time, on demand.
Wow.
Now, to the best of my knowledge, that shouldn't happen, ever.
It should not. Oh, you're right.
No, it shouldn't. And neither should you, kids. Never ask for radiation to go up in your area, because it could happen.
There are a lot of properties to natural things that we just haven't figured out yet. The science just hasn't grasped.
Oh yeah, man. That, and what if, I hate to say it, but what if science is wrong?
Science is wrong all the time. Any scientist will tell you that.
But that's what I'm saying. Are they going to admit that? Come on. So a lot of what we're doing is we're pushing back these stigmas, right? I mean, that's kind of what we have been doing for so long here. And every bit of this helps. Back in the 1970s, Dee, my wife, along with my mother and father, witnessed dozens of brightly colored lights dancing in my parents' front yard. After a few minutes, the lights moved from the yard. And then he's going to type some more.
Another common thing across the world is people who believe in like the Fae type phenomenon or any kind of weird phenomenon. They believe that if you wear some type of iron object,
oh yeah, that's right.
Off.
Protection.
It's always iron too.
Right.
Almost always iron.
Protection.
What's iron made of? Iron comes from dead stars.
Well, I mean, we could go there. And what someone said, Adam Good, I think you need to seek the guidance of Sky Daddy Matthew McConaughey. Well, I got to make Adam feel good, so. There you go, Adam. It's all better now, buddy. We got you. We got you covered. But, yeah, man, have you, you've seen these things now personally, up close. Tom has seen them very, very up close. Eric has seen them now. So, how has this changed you as a researcher, not as a historian, but as an actual field investigator, a researcher out there? Has this changed you and your perception on what it is that we may be dealing with here, other than
great question. So how it has affected me is going in the woods. I'm not actually looking to find anything. I'm looking to have that kind of a bond right there. And I'm trying to make the situation the same as it was before and have an open circuit. And one of the ways that I do this is by going in there with mindfulness. going in there with the intention of what I want to see. Because if this is indeed vibrations, this is indeed frequency, our minds also produce frequency and vibrations whenever we think. So to go out there with mindfulness about what I'm looking for, and also why I'm looking for it as well too. I think a lot of people go out there with this kind of bravado and masculinity, almost confrontational with these things, and they go out there and know that nothing wants to be confronted or have any kind of interaction when somebody might kill them. So I go out there with almost kind of a feeling of zen. And I lean a lot on Buddhist ideology whenever it goes to this, that there's an interconnectivity with everything. And if we would go out there and just simply realize that we're all in this together, we're all part of this one creation, sometimes things will come through at that point.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more with you
I
on that,
think
man.
that everything is made with a really complicated series of computer code, and we all come from the same code.
Yes.
We follow
I
the
like
same
that.
rules.
Yeah.
We just
That's
don't
kind of the
realize
same
what
thing,
I
right?
like that. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, we all still bear the fingerprint of the divine on us, right? And so whenever we look at, again, I think that Eastern religions are so utterly beautiful. Whenever we talk about, the namaste, what we're doing is we are bowing to that divinity that ignites a person into being, right? We're doing that, and not only are we bowing to that divinity, but we're also recognizing that divinity which is in us is in somebody else as well too, and then we become brothers and sisters within that belief.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is one of the bigger and most complicated parts of, back then it was called the New Age, movement. That was one of the biggest problems with it was, well, you guys, you don't believe in God, you believe in self and blah, blah, blah. It was more complicated than that.
It was more complicated.
It was far more complicated than that. And today we still have that. It's just called something else now. It's called metaphysics. But it's basically what it is. It's metaphysics. It's a metaphysical thought process. And it doesn't negate anything. I've said this multiple times to people. I know you've heard it yourself, and we get these disqualifiers. Well, I'm this or that religion and this, but this happened. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't matter what religion you are. You're a person having this human experience trying to understand something that's not quite human.
That's right.
And it's okay. It doesn't matter. Your religion is what it is. And I'll bet you if you look at it close enough, you'll probably see validation there if you look close enough.
Agreed.
So it really doesn't bother me, and I think it bothers a lot of people still to this day. I know there are people who are, you're Bigfoot's a demon, or some of this stuff. It's like, come on, that's a belief system. And if you want to, you want to do that, there's no different than saying, well, Bigfoot's not real.
That's right.
Not really.
There are diabolical forces out there, but
we project our own beliefs on people.
Well, my friend, there are always good and bad. And if you can't have one without the other, or you would never know which is which, really.
can't have yin and yang without.
That's right. These are deep, deep thoughts that someone taught our ancient ancestors at some point. And, we're still struggling with it today, but they understood it perfectly well.
They did. That's right.
We just got away from it. Let's see. We got any more questions over here, boys and girls? Looks like
I think
they're
the
all
problem is
just
that society
talking
just
amongst
tunes
themselves.
that stuff out too much.
It does. It really does.
Things.
So we got about 15 more minutes. I know Ron's gotta head out, but we're going to stay on here and discuss some stuff. Have a kind of a after the show party, I guess, and go over a few things. But I'm just I'm just wanting to get up there at this point. Now I want to throw what we got at it.
That's right. And like I said, I will go to a place. I'll hook up Lisa and Dee to come with us as well too, and we'll have a little party out there. And like I said, this is one of the most remarkable places I've ever been, and we've had a lot of activity happen there. And it's also within the Chestnut Ridge as well too. So
that'll be great. That way, you've got the psychic side covered. We've got the instrument side covered, the physics side, and go out there, like you said, we have more luck with things when we're not looking for it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Don't look for it. And there's also something to be said, too, in female researchers, which they don't get a lot of their due. This is a very male oriented world. And unless you have a beard and a hat, nobody's going to listen to you, right? So I think that women really have the nature to get to the bottom of these things. Lauren Coleman said that, he would bet that if Bigfoot is ever going to be discovered, it will be by a group of women because they just take it completely differently. They look at the world differently than men.
It'll be Jesse. It'll be Jesse. I'm pretty sure. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that's a good point. I mean, we even talked about that a lot. That's why it's so good to see representation across all genders, basically, when it comes to this kind of stuff. Because you know what? This is a human thing issue, okay? I mean, humans have got to figure this out. That's what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter what race, religion, creed, etc., all. We're gonna have to work together to make it happen, in my opinion. And that's why we set up the collective. And the collective is one of those things where it's not one group that controls everybody. It's just a collective. You share your information, kind of like what we do here. It's just like that. It's like, oh, well, I had this weird thing happen. Here, take a look at this video for me. What's your thought? That's how it works. And it's hopefully, that's what we can get more people to do rather than saying, oh, you got a Bigfoot sighting here and there's an orb. Nope. I'm just going to throw this away.
Well, that's right.
Can't do that.
No, we can't do that.
And we can't just pick and choose. I can't just say, oh, there's an orb here. I'm going to grab that. No, it's Bigfoot. I'm not interested. No, no, it doesn't work that way. But we see it, right? I mean, I think that's a legitimate argument.
Yeah. Ever since I started this, people like we talked about at the onset of the show, the different camps, flesh and blood camp. If this Bigfoot seems to materialize or dematerialize, it's obviously a hoax. We throw it out immediately, right? Or if there's a Bigfoot around the area and also a UFO site in the area, that gets thrown out as well, too. Or the UFO doesn't get reported because it does not fit what they believe. And that's faulty thinking at that point. That does no good for anybody.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I know we at OBC this year, it was really refreshing, man. It was great because we had people who were coming up to the table and they were actually talking about this stuff. They were like telling us about the weird stuff. We didn't get that before. Like, it's typically, that is a flesh and blood thing, man. Like, you don't do that. But here's these people who were talking, and then some were really, really reluctant to talk because they thought that you were of that camp. So they weren't going to say anything. And then when they were like, we kind of, we'd share a little bit of stories. Like, well, since you did that, this is what happened to me. Like, I totally understand, man. It's like they have no clue that people are actually taking it serious, though. And we're taking it very serious, just to let you know. We're taking it extremely serious as far as trying to validate this stuff. Now,
I think I've gone a little bit off the deep end. Like, I drive myself crazy connecting things now.
You've gone off the deep end, my friend. A while back. We can go back to the episodes. We'll figure out which one it was. But yeah, no, I'm kidding.
Most recently, it was the owl episode where
the owl episode disturbed you, didn't it?
I started connecting Mothman with the owl phenomenon, and then screen imaging.
Okay. Well, that could happen, I guess. Here, does this do anything to you? No. Okay.
Yep.
Just making sure,
It does it to me too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I probably just managed to trigger half the audience. Hey, my job's done here, Earthlings. But anyway, no, I think that like I said, man, working together, and I think that's our goal here is to just get more people to open up about this stuff and share. And man, they're doing it tonight. We've got some incredible stories out there, and it's not old stuff. It's not new stuff. It's just stuff. It's stuff that's been happening forever and is brand new. It just started happening recently to some of these people. It's all quantum. It's all quantum related. Nothing really exists until you accept it exists, right? I mean, isn't that how it works? So you have
That's right.
kind of, yeah. I mean, you gotta
That's how it works.
accept it to to believe it.
That's right. Absolutely. It has to be believed to be seen, kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh,
I was just reading
thanks.
that. Yeah, I wasn't ignoring you. I was reading that as well too.
No, no, you're
Yeah, yeah,
fine.
yeah. I knew the owls, and also I don't know if you gentlemen talked about the Cornwall owl man
Yeah,
as well
the
too.
Owl
You know,
Man.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, the Owl Man. We had a whole episode on the Owl Man not too long ago.
Wow,
Which the correlations on that are pretty interesting, aren't they? I
it is
mean,
very interesting. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
The thing about it, if we would connect the dots, though, the Celtics, the Celtics, the Celts
The
also in that
Celts.
region of England had, since the Iron Age, had this belief system in an owl man as well too.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like this winged humanoid, this anthropomorphic bird human thing. It shows up over and over and over
Yeah,
again in nearly all these ancient
Well, when
cultures.
St. Patrick was in Ireland, he saw a group of people turn into wolves. Remember that
that's
story?
right.
Well, that's
Absolutely,
true. That's true.
werewolves. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about the Birdman. So I studied a lot of Native American cultures whenever I was in graduate school, and I got to do a little research down in Cahokia in Carbondale,
Oh,
Illinois, which was an amazing thing.
the
And there they have the
Birdman
Birdman
of
image
Cahokia.
there is right
Yeah.
too. But what I've never seen anybody try to connect the dots here, but that Birdman that they had in their mythology, Cahokia, looks an awful lot like the Birdman that was represented in the Easter Island
Mm-hmm.
culture as well, too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We are separated by a great deal of space
Yep.
and not so much time because they're almost contemporaries of each other. But it seems very curious to me that they keep on coming up over and over again with this amalgamation of a man and a bird.
Absolutely, man. And it's all over the world. That's the thing. And the cultures, they're separated by miles that could not have been, according to what we know and according to archaeology, they could not have been traversed at that time.
Don't forget the Christian image of angels.
Yeah, that's a good point. They have, wings, although
Like, where did that come from? I mean, it's like
someone
it's something
painted them
popped up in
on.
art at one point.
No.
Mm.
But no, it really, that is what happened. Someone just suddenly decided, let's paint these on here, and it stuck. And yeah, man, things that fly, wings. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we've had this conversation all evening, and it's been about ghost lights and orbs, and I think we're talking about UAP.
I do. I do.
I mean, I really do. I think we're talking about UAP. I think that's one of the reasons that the name has been changed. That's one of the reasons that we're looking at this from a different perspective, the non-human intelligence perspective. I didn't say alien. There's no reason to say alien because we
Right.
don't know what that even is. So there's an intelligence. We don't know where it's from. It's non-human, obviously, because I can't turn myself into a ball of glowing light. How about you? So, we have to look at it like that. And if
Right.
that's what we're dealing with, man,
I like the idea though that we should probably start saying uh, uh, kind of like a UFP, unexplained force phenomenon. We almost
yeah,
have to do that,
we do.
unexplained water phenomenon, all this kind of stuff. So we don't just go Bigfoot and we just don't go Dogman because those are the labels that were given to us.
Yeah.
Right? But
What you
happens
call
if it
them
doesn't
unexplained
exist?
earthly phenomenon.
There we go. I like that. I like that. I like that very much.
Well,
Yeah.
we hear them using cryptids, and they're using that wrong. I
Oh
mean,
yes.
let's be
Yeah.
real. But they're not cryptids. We're not talking about cryptids when we talk about these things. Like you said, I'll say the name for you, Adam. When we're talking about things like Dogman, for example, we're not talking about, I don't think, a physical creature. That's not a physical thing to me. I know it may look physical. It may be physical, but when I say physical, I mean like you or me. We can't change our physical appearance, but maybe something can. And that's what I think we're dealing with. I think we're dealing with things that can either make us either, like you said, see what they want us to see, or they can literally change their own shapes. And
Right.
that may explain some of these weird footprints like that Stan has out there, That's
Sure.
The morphine
toe
footprints.
prints and everything else. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But and this is part of the fairy nomenclature as well too, because the idea that fairies can shapeshift is part of the word glamour that was used, right? The ability to make themselves appear as if something they're not, and that sticks with us to this day for glamour magazines and cosmetics and everything. It's the ability to be able to change the way one looks, and that is part of that tradition that goes back thousands of years.
Yeah. So, I think one other part of our data set has to be we add, of course, violated it years ago, trickster to this, right?
Right.
Because we are seeing deception. And I think that's where a lot of people come up with this diabolical, demonic kind of, label that they throw and stuff. But we have to remember, it's really no different than what we do when we go out in the woods and we observe, say, bears or endangered species. We collect samples. We sometimes, pop a tranquilizer in them if they're, going to be rough. And then we tag them and we do our experiments. And then they wake up and they probably have an incredible story to tell their friends.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Or fish when they get yanked out of the water.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, are we evil? Are we demonic? Are we diabolical because of what we're doing? We're trying to understand something, possibly even trying to save a species. See, it's all about the paradigm of belief, not so much the belief system, but the entire paradigm of the belief system that dictates how we view these phenomena. And I think that I used to say back in the day, one of the most damning aspects of the paranormal is a rigid belief system. You can't be. And I'm not. Like, I know I say what I say, but I'll tell you this right now. If someone comes to me with evidence, proof, and says that this is what this is, I'll be like, okay, that's cool. Let's go over here and look at that now. Because it doesn't matter to me what they are. I just know that there is something. Then there's something more.
Very well said.
But, my friend, this has been an amazing conversation.
I enjoyed everything about it. I wish I had a glass of water beside me
Me
because I
too.
started to lose my voice. I hope we do this again sometime.
We're going to do that. Yeah, we're doing it again.
Oh, yeah.
I would look forward to this. And then don't forget, sometime in July, we will be together right before the Kecksburg Festival. And then if anybody wants to hear what came out, come and visit us there at the Kecksburg Festival.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite events I've ever attended.
Yep, it's bigger than what I would have ever imagined. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. I put a little video up there last year while we were up there, and we had a blast.
Yeah,
you'll enjoy it. It's going to be a whole lot of fun this year. We're going to have, of course, we'll be vending this year. Last year I was just visiting, so I'll be vending, and then I'll be speaking. So I don't know what you're going to hear there. It's hard to tell, but let's definitely plan on trying to get in there, say Thursday evening, on the ridge or close to the ridge or whatever, and just see what happens.
Let's do that. Yep, we'll see what happens. What more can we do? Right? Just see what happens.
I mean, what could go wrong? We could break the universe, Ron. That's all. It's two Rons in the same place. We had that experience already at Dave's.
That's right.
It was.
It'll be a perfect unity, gentlemen. I'm looking very much forward to that. And again, all these listeners that took their time to comment and to ask questions. As a guest on our program, you could not ask for anything better than that. So I greatly appreciate that as well.
Well, they all did a wonderful job, I think, and people, please do hang around because we're going to be doing an after show on this, and we're going to be talking about some stuff and going over some things. I know Ron's he's got to get to the real world and prep for that because he's human. No, I'm kidding.
No, I agree. Gentlemen, you guys have been fantastic as well too. I loved every bit of this, and I cannot wait to do it again.
Well, we're going to get you back on. Don't worry. And maybe, by then we'll have that book out, right? You want to talk about that real quick? So I wrote a book that you did, the remarkable, one of the best covers I've ever seen for a book. It's going to be produced by
Dave Spig, but it's Jen that actually puts the books out, isn't it?
Yeah, Dave doesn't do anything. No,
Dave just watches. Yeah.
Dave just watches. Yeah, he just calls me and says, "Hey, is that cover it?" I'm like, "Okay,
That's
yeah,
right. That's right.
I get it."
But it's a book about Earthlights. It's a book about my experience, and it's a book about other people's experiences from around the world. And let's see what comes out of it. I thought that it would be available now, not yet, but it should be available within the next couple of days.
I can't wait to read it, and of course, when we get it, I'm going to do a review, and I'm definitely going to put it up there. I might be a little biased, but either way, like I said, I really appreciate your work. I really appreciate your research. After I got to know a little bit more about you, I was just like, "Yep, this is one of them. This is one of them people. Probably gonna be another friend." And I wasn't wrong.
Yes, that's right. And I do take friendship very, very seriously as well too, because friends are hard to come by, and both of you gentlemen I do consider you my friend. So
yes, they absolutely are, and especially when it comes to research, man, because you never know what's going to happen there. So you never know. But if I have anything interesting, I'll definitely be sending it your way, Ron, and we will. Like I said, I'll be in touch with you before we get up there. So
I can only thank you guys for having me, and thanks a lot to all the folks here too. And back to the real world for me tomorrow.
Stay wild and weird, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, that was the legendary Mr. Ron Murphy, and wow, what a great guest, Brandon. What do you think?
It's pretty rare that you meet somebody who views things the way that we do, as much as he does. So it was pleasantly surprising to see that.
And what was really great for me personally was we got to hear validation tonight. We got to hear someone else sitting over there saying the same thing that you're going to hear us say, mostly me, about some of these phenomena. And it makes me happy, because it's like, look, I've been saying this. Now listen to someone else say it. He's over there. You listen to him.
Yeah, I was just letting him talk. I was like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime you have a guest like that, that's exactly what you do. He knows his stuff. That's the great thing. I cannot wait to get on the ridge and actually, pull out some gear and give it a shot. And guys, I'll tell you what, if you've got any questions, seriously, you can still post them. I'll make sure Ron gets to see those and get some answers for you. And I will make sure also to take into consideration any type of possible experiments you might want us to conduct whilst we are there. So be thinking about that. We know that these things are intelligent, right? We've come down with that. We know that they can affect certain levels of stuff. I'll tell you what we're taking so far. So far, we're taking EM. We're going to take trifield. We're going to take several EMF meters. We're going to take a spectrum analyzer. We're going to take Geiger counters always, the dosimeter. We're going to take several different IR cameras. We're going to take the thermal, and we're going to take some audio gear as well. So we'll see what we get, and if we do validate something with any of that gear, especially if there's psychically sensitive individuals there, it could be interesting. It could be very interesting. Eventually I'll have a drone too. There you go. There you go. I had one for a while. We used to use it until they had all the regulations, and I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, pretty soon you're going to need FAA clearance just to fly one.
You kind of almost do now, man, to do anything we would be doing. D, we're going to be up near the Chestnut Ridge apparently, because we'll be at Kecksburg in July, so we're going to be getting there a little early. And I think I'm coming in on Thursday evening, and Ron's going to be there, so it should be a lot of fun. What? When you go, ask it to raise sea level by 4 feet. I just want to see what happens. No, I'm not going to ask to raise the sea level
by Florida.
Come on, you just want oceanside property. You want me to make you oceanside property by talking to extra dimensional beings? I am not going to do that. That's
Wants to
probably.
see Arizona Bay come to life.
I'm going to bet you that there's a rule against that, and I'm not going to be the one who breaks that, brother. Ain't going to happen. What do we got? We observed what you say, man. We observed phenomena in this world interacts with in this world, probably of this world, but we can't use what we know of this world to explain it. Man, that's about the most accurate way to put that. We're limited by our understandings, aren't we? It sounds like quite the adventure. Yeah, those things kind of sort of follow us around just a little bit. Did you guys watch the Ghost Possum episode yet? By the way, the video that we that I posted up there of our little adventure over at Salt Fork. Anybody happen to watch that? Because
Yeah,
if you
that
didn't,
part cracked me up.
oh, which one?
He was chasing around the possum, like whistling at it and stuff.
Dude. Yes. You can hear it on the video too.
Uh-huh.
Like he's back there just like I'm like, what's he doing? But yeah, for those who didn't see it, that is one of the anomalies that we captured. And we don't know what it was, to be honest with you, but it's kind of off the ground. Joe tried to get to it, but by the time he went over there, this disappears, and it gets bright right here and gone. Kind of like, come back, I think, one more time, and then it's gone. Nope, it's gone. And at that time, when it disappears, Joe's up there it's right here. I'm like, what do you mean it's right here? It's not right here. It's not near you. It's like 20 yards away from you or 30 yards away from you or something. And he thinks it's a possum looking thing because it's a little fuzzy creature, he says, that he sees. And more on that on tomorrow's actual podcast around noon, where that'll drop. And this is the final report on the Salt Fork incident as of right now. We'll be dropping tomorrow, and that's going to be the actual podcast. And you'll hear Joe talking about the ghost possum a little bit. But what was really weird about that, man, was those power drains that we were getting. That was... We're experiencing some equipment drainage. This was just charged. I just charged this.
This was fully charged. It's almost at a quarter battery. Yeah, I charged.
Check the Geiger counter over there. See where we're sitting. What are you running at? 26. Okay, nothing spectacular there. I'll see that.
And I charged it last night.
So you just charged this, right?
Yep.
So all of our equipment, pretty much, there's like 3 pieces of equipment that started going down. And here's the crazy part. And we had somebody ask such a great question over on YouTube on that video. And she asked some great questions about it. And she wanted to know if, basically, does that happen a lot? No, not really. And then, do you always have equipment draining at the same time? What's very funny is no, we absolutely do not have equipment draining at the same time. But what's really crazy about this, Brandon, is when we sit down and looked at it, I was almost at 24% when that happened, and Joe was at 24%. You heard him say it. I'm at 24%. We had to almost exact power levels left. So something was pulling power from that equipment in that kind of time frame. And what was really nuts about it, I thought that we had filmed for longer. That was weird, because I'm thinking, well, we filmed for a long time. Maybe it was just that, But then when I go back and I look at the timestamps, and remember, we had like 3 different cameras running. When I look at the timestamps, that equipment had only been running for about 30 minutes. Like 27 minutes or 30 minutes or something. I put it in the full report. There's actually a report up on the website. Y'all can go read that if you want to. And those batteries should have lasted 2.5 hours easy. Had it been an actual investigation, we would have, of course, probably pulled out our other gear and some new batteries and hit it at that point. But as it was getting late, and we had to get back and get our table set up for the next day. But man, weird stuff happened out there that we still can't quite wrap our heads around.
That particular area is just like that.
D says, "Well, I'm new to your channel." Well, welcome aboard, D. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you like it.
Yep.
We put a lot of stuff on our channel. We'll put our actual investigations out there. We'll put, of course, the lives go up there, and then the podcast itself go up there. So there's a lot of stuff that goes up. And sometimes, every now and again, if you're lucky, I'll actually throw a short up there and me doing some art, because we do some art and sell that to help fund stuff. And that gets us through. And Pat watched it. Yep. Ike watched it. Yay, you guys did watch it. Yes. So you saw also the UAP that we captured out there again. And one of the crazy things that you're going to see, I'm going to let you guys see it because you're here, okay? I mean, everybody else got to wait till tomorrow at noon to see it, but you're all special. And Adam and who was it? Spooky Appalachia were nice enough to donate a little bit to us tonight. I mean, I got $5 from each one of you guys. God bless you. That's the most that anyone's ever given us. And, so for that, I'm going to show you a sneak peek of what you get to see. And this is a side-by-side comparison. This is very cool because I had not done this until I had put this video together. And I decided to do the UAP that we captured at Salt Fork and the one that we captured at Logan, Chief Logan Park there last October. Watch this and notice how they trail off into the distance. This is the important part because a lot of people are like, they're just birds. They're just birds. Pay attention to what you see. Okay, so that's Salt Fork. This is Logan. Now watch, as they get close to the horizon, you're going to see them kind of dim. That is consistent with something literally going over the horizon. Okay? Birds typically don't go over the horizon. Let me explain it to you this way. If that's a bird, it must be going, what, Brandon? 500 miles an hour? Something? I mean, birds don't fly at 500 miles an hour.
No, not normally.
Yeah, no. I don't even think Mothman made it up to 500, but,
Be a bird with a jetpack.
It's a bird with a jetpack. It's a bird man. We've solved the bird man. Absolutely. I found my people with whom I can share all my experiences. Yes. And you know what's really funny about what you just said? That's the exact words that I turned and I said to Joe several years ago when we started Wild and Weird West Virginia, when we did our very first show. We were out there selling our goods, to do whatever we had to do next, make some new stuff to sell. And I remember we were so received by those people, and we just looked at each other and I said, man, we found our people. And yeah, it's quite a feeling when you do find your people. And look at that, man. You say his name and he appears. It's almost like you conjured him up or summoned him. Like, you never know. I mean, he could just materialize almost like one of those weird orbs. It's crazy. Yeah, Mach 20. There you go. That's it.
Competing with Chuck Yeager.
Yeah. That's like what we saw, but it wasn't moving. Just got dimmer and disappeared. See? Yeah. Yep. There you go. Exactly. And what's really crazy about these, Robin, and again, this has happened multiple times now. Every one of those UAPs I just showed you are only visible in thermal. We have confirmed this at multiple locations now. You can look with your eyes all you want. You can look through binoculars all you want. You won't see them, but on thermal, there they are. Now, what's really funny about that? I just watched the last night's episode of Skinwalker Ranch. Guess what they got on night vision that they couldn't see at all with their other equipment? No other cameras got it. Nothing got it at all except for the NVGs that I think Travis was using. and there's a glowing ball, the orb in the sky, and it's flashing on and off, and then it just disappears. But it was, yeah, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. It's
Makes
like
me
this.
wonder, like, if they had
It's
something
insane.
with UV spectrum, what they might see.
Oh, they did. They had some stuff. Yeah, they did some really cool experiments. That was like, oh man, they know what they're doing because, and I say
Got
that
money.
because, well, it's not just that. They are doing exactly what I would do if I had the money, because I'm pretty sure that what we're dealing with is multispectral, and that's kind of what they were going for in their experiments. They didn't explain it as much. They just had a guy come in and they had a multispectrum emitter, not a receiver, but an emitter, and they were beaming out the 1.6 gigahertz signal. And
That drove it crazy.
it showed up, whatever it was. So, again, I think that we're on the same track. We're moving in the same direction. This phenomena is so confusing that it literally challenges you to think outside the box and come up with different ways to not manipulate it, but to validate it. You won't manipulate this thing. It's not going to happen. Because it seems like when you actually go out there and you're like, okay, I'm here I am, I'm looking for you, you're not going to find a thing. That's going to be the night you have zero activity. Zero. But if you go out there with a clear mindset, maybe, I don't know, sit there and meditate a little bit, whatever it takes, just to clear your mind. If you have to, sure, smudge yourself, light up some sweet grass and call in the ancestors, sprinkle some tobacco. It don't matter, because what's
Or go out
interesting
there and
enough.
do anything else but look for it.
Yeah, what's really interesting about that is that's exactly what Joe was doing up on that trail. He was up there sprinkling tobacco as a respect to, because we're in old Shawnee territory up there, So he's sprinkling some tobacco, and that's when he comes back and he's like, what is it? I'm like, dude, we got something on thermal. He's like, what is it? And right before that, I think it was, he had come down the trail, and Glenn said, hey, turn your camera up that way. I just thought I saw a shadow walk through there. No, I didn't see no shadow. I saw no shadow at all. But we saw that little light. And then the same things happened out there, on the shoreline, where Joe sees the flash, but there's no flash for me. I just see, that thing shooting across the sky. It's like people are seeing things at the exact same time, but they might be different things. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I mean, talk about the ultimate camouflage. Oh, this is a good point. Incredibly hot to be detected at that altitude. Yes, Joe, absolutely incredibly hot to be detected at that altitude. Yes.
Like a miniature volcano.
It's pretty warm. Yes, and Adam makes it very clear here. Sky Daddy Matthew McConaughey does need you to hit the like button before we leave tonight. We're going to be
And
on for a
subscribe
little
if you
bit
haven't.
longer. Yeah, subscribe if you haven't done so. Definitely subscribe and go watch
The
some
alert
videos.
bell, that way you get the notifications.
Yes. Do all those things. Yep. And Joe, I don't know if you got to see it or not, but we had 2 donators tonight who did a super chat, our very first super chats, and that was Spooky Appalachia #1, and Adam, who came in and gave us his donation there toward the middle of the show or so. So those are the 2 who basically were the first ones to do that, and we very much thank you guys for that. Seriously, thank you for that. Because what we were saying, is basically if we can get this show to pay for itself, we can put more funds to getting out there in the field and getting you some more stuff to look at. We weren't even looking for it; just showed up out of the blue. Yes, Robin. Yes. That's how it happens. Well, we weren't looking for this thing. We were out there shooting a documentary. We were shooting a documentary of our friend who has never really. So he was approached by someone to do a podcast, and he's done them before, but he really didn't want to do that anymore. And he said, I wanted to do it with somebody I really trust, so I want to do it with you guys. I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so you want me just to come in and do a documentary and then give you give it back to you? He's like, no, I want you to do what you want to do with it. I'm like, okay. So you're okay releasing it out to the public? Yeah. All right. So we went down there for that reason. We went down there to basically tell this guy's story about his first, encounter with Bigfoot. And he had one right up close with this thing. And, he describes it very well. So that's what we were doing when we were there. I happen to have all that equipment because every time we go out in the field now, it seems like, well, we're not looking. Something happens. And I wanted to have equipment with us just in case. I've almost gotten to the point now, I say almost, I have gotten to the point now to where I keep a Geiger counter in my backpack at all times at this point and a tri-field meter. That's how paranoid I have become. No, I'm kidding. It's not paranoid, but I am definitely interested in trying to find correlating data sets. And boy, we're doing it.
That makes you a prepper.
Is that maybe? Could be. Paranormal prepper, is that a thing?
Yeah.
That's a thing, right? It is now. I'm okay. That's a new shirt. If you guys want me to make the new shirt, start hitting the like or the heart button or whatever, and I'll get on that. The paranormal prepper. That's going to be the new shirt. And yeah, that's right, Adam. It kind of tailors itself to each individual need. Yeah, I agree. And Joe, yeah, he missed the super chat, guys, but he's very grateful, just like me. And Adam, of course, wants me to make the shirt. I'll do it, Adam. Don't worry. Thanks, Dewey. Good night, brother. Thanks for being here. Always great having Dewey out here. As another vote, I guess, for the Paranormal Prepper shirt. So that's two. That's two. Should I really do this? Okay, guys. I got a question. We've got we got about another 40 minutes or so, something like that. Do you guys want to do the Ovilus thing, or just say nah, not tonight? It's up to you. Completely up to you. I'm just, throwing it out there, saying, there's options on the table for you guys. There's the third for the shirt. We got Anita down there, third for the shirt. Maybe I'll do the shirt and I'll do maybe a live of making the shirt, like the art for the shirt. That might be fun. Let you guys see the madness that ensues sometimes. We got 1 vote for Ovilus. We got 3 votes for shirts. See, this is how we do things. We're a democracy around here. That's what we are. And my monitor just fell out, so. Which is fine when you're on the air, but man, if you're playing and that happens, nope, it's not good. It's not good at all. Never good. One of the worst things I always had happen out there on the road when I was playing was my monitor wouldn't work. And being a keyboard guy, you have to hear. You have to hear yourself. I have to hear myself play, and I was sitting right beside Dave at the time. Dave's over there banging on the drums. Dave was a phenomenal. Okay, and Dewey came back to say, I vote for the shirt. So everybody, we're getting shirts. That's what I'm saying. Mob rules. Yep, there you got it. Mob rules. Right there's one. Right here's one. Right here. Vote for the shirts. Vote for the shirts. Right there. And there's an Ovilus vote. Ovilus, another Ovilus vote. But, and yes to the shirt. So, yeah, all right. We're getting a shirt and Ovilus, apparently. But anyway, back to the story. Playing out there, it's hard to hear yourself playing, keys. So I would have these headphones on, and I would run them to my monitor sometimes, and I could kind of hear like that. But if you're singing too, you can't really do that, So I would have to have an actual personal monitor that was sitting there, and I swear to goodness, the sound guy would always take my keyboard down out of that, and I don't know why. And he was like, if you need more, just, let me know. Just put your finger. I just sit here like one day like this, one night. That means turn me up. And finally he got the idea, and everything was good. But my goodness, man, I don't miss that part of, I do not miss that part of playing at all. All right. Good night, D. Thanks for being here. We're getting ready to turn on the obelisk for everybody. That's a little thing we like to do. And let you guys have fun with that for a little bit before we head out. Uh-oh. Phone wants to see my face to turn on. Okay.
AI scanning run.
It just did, man. It just did. It completely scanned me. It'll be creating a new me soon. There'll be a deep fake me out there somewhere. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, Fishbelly says the Oculus is demonic, but go for it. That makes a lot of sense, right? Ah, jeez.
Ask it that. Hey, Oculus.
We're going to find out. Just for Fishbelly, I'm going to find out. And if it is, I'm giving you a point. You might get a free shirt, too. And then we'll get rid of the Ovilus forever. Because we know it's true intent. Okay. Well, anyway, before it drags us off into the nether regions of the abyss,
Ovilus on. Ovilus on.
one day I'll get them synced up. Hopefully before it summons the Antichrist. Anyway, next thing we're up to is asking your questions. Go ahead and do your thing, guys. Ask your questions. I swear to God, if one of you asks about JFK, though, not this time.
Yeah, so far she's not bitten on JFK at all.
Nope. Well, Pat wants to know a great question. Is it secretly Satan? That's a very clever trick if it is. I'll say that. Well, it's being very deceptive. I'll tell you that. So, maybe. Okay. So while the Ovilus is thinking about whether or not it is diabolical, anybody have anything else they would like to share in the meantime while we wait for... yeah. It's pretty quiet. Must be a bad connection down there.
The quietest has been in like a month.
Legion.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
She's awake.
Yes, Joe.
Starting.
Joe, you won the game. What would be the first word? And it was Legion.
Joe, which free shirt do you want?
Yeah, which free shirt you want that you got to buy for yourself? Good night, Anita. Thanks for dropping by, and thanks for sharing some stories with us. We'll see you
make a
next
shirt that says
time.
Legion.
Oh, gosh, no.
Only our fans will know what we're talking about.
No. Adam wants to know how far away. You clever. No. I've already did my puppy dude, quota for the night. No. Oh, Adam.
Cannot.
Well, I guess I was going to say what did happen? Robin had said, next show, can we talk about Sounds from the Sky? And when I went to click on it, it literally said cannot. So I don't think we're supposed to talk about the Sounds from the Sky, Robin. No, of course we can. Where is Lee Harvey Oswald? Oh, come on, guys. Would you get off of the JFK stuff?
He's dead now. He's probably hanging out with the Fae.
Ah, man. This is embarrassing. You guys are embarrassing me in front of the Ovilus. Let's go over and check our stats for tonight whilst we have a couple minutes left.
Agent.
Agent. So no, it's probably not. It's not Satan, but it could be an agent. I guess is what it's saying.
Agent for Satan.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't say that. The Ovilus did, sort of, kind of. Anyway, The stats, my friends, for tonight. What have you guys done? Let's see. I think you did pretty good, is what I think. Looks like about 71 real-time views. That's pretty good. That's not bad. That's not bad. I know that Ron wants to beat Dewey's record. So in order to do that, he's going to have to rack up, let's see, I think Dewey was at around 2 something that first show within 24 hours. So you guys going to have to show Ron the love to get him up there if he's going to do that. And your chat messages are 293, and I know Dewey's was about 450 something. Yeah, it was like 459. And so we didn't quite hit the chat message mark for him, but nevertheless, a really awesome guest. I was really happy to have him on. Let's see. Oh, well, Adam changed the question, so there you go. How far is the puppy dude from Brandon? Yeah, there you go. That's good.
Well, I'm not very far from the woods. So.
There's a fair question. What is stacking rocks in my yard? James Boggs. That's a good question there, Ovilus.
That's also a strange phenomenon.
That is a strange phenomenon. It really is.
Great.
Great. Something great is what's stacking rocks in your yard. That makes sense, actually. That tracks.
Modern.
Great and modern. Something is stacking rocks.
Arrest.
And apparently you need to arrest it, or it's going to arrest you. I'm not sure which.
Girl.
Oh, it's a girl. Okay. There you go. James, it's a girl. You need to have her arrested. And she's modern, so not a cave girl.
I don't go be arrested.
Yeah, I don't get that. When will I get to pet the Bigfoot?
Drift.
Drift. That's not an answer. I don't know what that means. Maybe it means something to one of you guys, not me. Well, Pat, if you come out to one of our workshops or, meet us in the woods.
Call. LED.
And she's active now.
Call LED. That makes sense. Maybe, just maybe.
Well, Ron did talk about how the Orbs had an LED light glow to it that he saw.
Bike. Breakfast.
Now it's just been weird. I think the synchronicity is gone, guys.
Remain.
Yeah, it's gone. What is step 2?
Perhaps.
It result in profit? I have no idea.
Ask her what stocks we
Malice.
Yeah, what stock should we invest in, right? Would that be considered inside trading if you ask, the Ovilus?
Not legally speaking.
Tablet.
These are not making any sense to me, guys, and I don't see any correlation with any of your questions whatsoever. I think that we have answered the question, is the Ovilus a diabolical nature? Probably not, because it appears to just be a random machine tonight.
Tell.
No, you tell me. There's no
Else.
tell or else. Okay.
Now she's threatening us.
Now she's threatening. Yeah. This is how it begins. It's how the AI wars begin.
Scruple.
They have no scruples.
Gouge.
They will gouge you.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's threatening me. I'm being threatened by a machine, everyone.
Scrape.
See? Now it wants to scrape me. That's how it begins.
Ask her the winning Powerball numbers.
Crawl.
Crawl. Will Shade Viking win the lottery? There you go. I don't know, Shade. Tonight.
Tremor.
Yeah, see? Tonight it's just weird. Yeah, officers get really aggressive tonight. You guys are witness. Making sure you have witnesses in case it takes over. Yeah, it's Skynet. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Wow, this is the most disappointing Ovilus session that I've seen.
9.
Oh, there's a 9 for someone. Wow. Really bad. Really bad. Well, anyway, guys, I think that that's probably going to wrap the show at this point. We've said about everything we can do. Ovilus has lost its friggin' mind tonight.
Represent.
You're not representing very well at all. But
In.
in
Stars.
stars. Represent in stars.
Well, that has a little bit to do with what we talked about.
A little bit, but not any questions anyone asked. So, I'm giving the Ovilus probably a really bad rating.
Throat.
Really bad rating tonight. And I apologize for the fact that our machine
Marker.
psychic is having an off night, apparently. I don't really know. I'm just going to end this right now. It's just terrible.
Ovilus. On.
There. Wow. Terrible. Terrible. Well, hopefully we can get the Ovilus to straighten up and actually do some better things for us at some point. Good night, Robin. Everyone, I think that's going to wrap us. If you get a chance, come out there to Woodbugger Jamboree in the Racine this weekend, Saturday. And I hear that Brandon will be there. So this will be the first time, I think, that we've had the entire crew together in one place. So you don't know what's going to happen there. Might destroy the universe. Could happen. I don't know. But definitely come out. And, it's going to be a big vendor fair going on. We're going to have some workshops going on there where you're going to be able to do a little Q&A kind of thing with us and whatnot. You will be able to ask us questions. You'll get to see some of our equipment, see some of our gear, see some of our track casts, and you can probably poke fun at Joe. That's fun. Oh, and Chris is going to be there. Look forward to seeing you all there. Yeah, there you go, man. There you go. There you go. Uh-oh. There we go. It wouldn't hide for a second. And let's see where we at down here. Oh yeah, I want to thank everybody for popping along here. And like I said, make sure you tune in to tomorrow's episode of the actual podcast. We're going to show some of that footage and so forth and so on. And it's going to be good stuff. It's been blessed. So anyway, everybody, I think that's all. I'm going to call it a night. How about you, Brandon? You got any final words? Anything you want to say?
I think that's it.
That's about it. All right. Well, hailing frequencies appear to be closed. Everyone, we'll see you back here again next Thursday for another exciting episode of Wild and Weird Radio Live. And I don't know what it's going to be about yet, but keep watching because we'll figure out something. We'll make some happy memories for you. We'll pretend that the Ovilus thing didn't happen. It'll all be good. You have my word, I guess. I mean, as far as it goes. Good night, folks.